Okay, good evening. I am Mary Sullivan, City of Darien, Alderperson, Ward 5. I serve as chairperson for the Administrative Finance Committee. I would like to call to order our Committee of the Whole, with city alderpersons, our mayor, city treasurer, city administrator, senior staff, and city council members present. We will review, discuss, conduct Q&A, and come to a consensus on the fiscal year 25 budget. The documents you have all received is a collaborative effort with Mayor Marquez, City Administrator Vanna, Treasurer Corrin, and city staff. I will serve as your facilitator. Tonight is the first in a series of meetings, with the end goal being to have a public hearing on the budget at the City Council meeting on Monday, April 1st, and hold a vote. My goal is to complete the review in 2 meetings and conclude tonight by 9:30. We will take a few breaks along the way as needed. The next committee as a whole meeting will be Tuesday, February 27th at 6:30 p.m. in council chambers. I want to apologize in advance that I will be out of town for the meeting next week. Alderman Schauer, who previously served as chairperson for administrative finance, will facilitate that evening. Tonight we will begin with community development, followed by municipal services and capital projects, led by Dan Gombeck. The budget document, page 33, will be the start for tonight. I hope time allows for us to move into the department expenditures, starting with city council, administrative, and then maybe even heading into the funds. The police department will be covered at our meeting next week, with Police Chief Thomas present, and any other remaining budget areas or questions that need to be addressed. Many of the items in this year's budget were discussed in our goal-setting session last fall. All city council members received copies of the fiscal year 25 budget, along with summary pages and supporting documents. All this information has been published on the City of Darien website. The meetings are being broadcast on Channel 6 and will be available for viewing on the City of Darien website, along with the YouTube channel. So thus we'll get started. Mayor Marquez, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Treasurer Corrin, would you like to add anything?
Why not?
Okay.
Sorry, I guess it's time for my annual Sermon on the Mount. We usually start with the revenue expenditure summary and everything. I know for a matter of convenience, we're jumping around a little bit, but I just want to emphasize to the council that if you look at the revenue and expenditures and you look at our fund balances and everything, during the current fiscal year, we're able to transfer our surplus from the general fund to our capital improvement fund, which allows for work on the streets and any other major projects that we have coming along. And if you look at the current year, we're projecting to transfer $5.7 million from the general fund to the capital improvement fund. But as you look out 3 years, since this is a 3-year projection, during this meeting, we tend to focus on the 1 year. But if you look at over those 3 years, we're projected as only transferring next year $1.5 million instead of $5.7, and the third year out $1 million instead of the $5.7. Well, what happens to the capital projects fund? This year we're projecting that the ending balance will be approximately $16 million, but by the time you get to the end of year 3, down to $11 million. And that even includes us using excess funds from our MFT fund this year for doing our street projects, which ordinarily there's not enough money for doing that every year. At best, we're able to do that maybe once out of every 3 years. So typical expenses in the capital projects fund typically run about the $3 or $4 million level. If we're only transferring $1 million in, I mean, looking down the road, it does have an impact as far as the balances that we're carrying in there. So whatever we are able to save or be a little more conservative on in the current fiscal year does allow us to transfer more to that going forward. Again, we're looking a few years out. I had a meeting with a couple of new aldermen, and Jerry, I thought, brought up a good point that we should really need to look at the changes and look maybe potentially even 5 years out. I know it's beyond any of our terms, but I think we really need to focus on the long term there. So that's really the end of my comments. But again, whatever we're saving today that could increase that transfer capital projects going forward will just make life that much easier in time when we're not here serving.
Thank you for that, Treasurer Corrin. And it's I think that relates back to we're going to head into a strategic planning in the next couple of months, hopefully. And, that also is going to give us like a 4-year forecast, which obviously ideas mean money that needs to be spent to make things happen. So thanks for your Sermon on the Mount. Okay.
Mayor,
City Administrator, yeah.
just
Your-
one thing. Thanks,
your
Mike.
chance.
Thanks for that overview. We have gone to the 3-year budget a long time ago. Some towns do 3, 5, 10. It's just a matter of kind of how much staff you might have to put the time in and how accurate those years, because you do get less accurate, and you start relying on those years if they're less accurate. So again, I've always gone to the 3 because I think that was, for us, probably the best. But one point is, whatever the council discusses and ends up voting for and the budget's approved, items that are over $5,000 still need council approval throughout the fiscal year. So if the council agrees on a truck or something, some other purchase, if it's more than 5, it will come back to the city council through a committee, and then the city council again for a formal approval. So what you see in the budget, it maintains keeps as our working plan, but there's more checks and balances throughout the year.
Thank you for that. Okay.
That's all, thanks.
No problem. So everyone should be looking at page 33, City of Darien Community Development Department Budget, fiscal year '25. This is one of the budgets that falls under Dan Gombeck's responsibility. So we're going to start off with this. If you want to turn as a reference to the summary pages, which is page 34. And we'll start with personnel. I'm just going to kind of tick along all the accounts, and if you, have a question about something, or if there's something in the more discretionary area, that's usually where we hone in on conversation. So if there's no conversation on salaries,
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
How do we reduce our salaries? From our last year's budget was 389, and now we're 364.
We had funded that position, a part-time economic development
Lou
liaison.
Mallers was doing it.
Yes, he was the position, and now the EDC has picked up some of that, going out to visit businesses and things, so we did not fund that again this year.
Thank you.
obviously with the decrease in a position, some of the benefits is reflective in that. If there's no question on salaries, anything on benefits? Okay, moving on to operating. Some pretty straightforward, some memberships, insurance. Anything more on page 34? Okay, we'll move on to page 35. Continuing with operating, vehicles, postage, printing and forms.
Mayor?
Yes.
I got a question. Home Depot tax rebate, what year are we in on that?
We have two left. We have this year and the following year, and
Okay.
and we're done.
Gotcha.
So now we're on economic development.
Yeah, and Dan, do we have ongoing meetings now with the Walmart store manager?
We try to. The answer is yes,
Do we?
when they're available. When you say ongoing, I try to stop in there at least once a quarter to see what they're doing or not doing.
Can I go with you next time?
Sure.
I've got quite a few issues that I need to bring up with them.
Okay, maybe, and we could discuss
We
that
can
prior
talk
too, so
about
we
that,
have an
too.
agenda, yes.
Because I did have one meeting with the store manager over there, and I was not impressed with her at all.
And
And they change constantly, as you know.
that is correct, yes.
So I've got a few other things I want to communicate with them. So you and I can talk before.
Okay, that's got nothing to do with the sideline, right?
Yes,
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Mary?
Yes.
Just in terms of Ted's question, once again, like Brian said, there are 2 years left on that, but the incentive, if I recall, Brian, was a 10-year incentive to coincide with the lease extension that they did at the time, which would also mean that Home Depot's lease is up at that time. So it wouldn't surprise me if they come back and, okay, we want to do another, hopefully they'll want to do an extension of that. So it is possible they come back and want something similar. I don't know that for a fact, but that is a
Correct, but
possibility.
that was in the back of my mind and so
There's
forth.
2 more years, one way or the other.
Gotcha, thanks.
And do we have any idea of how soon they would come back? I mean, I'm sure they're not going to wait till the year of. Wouldn't that be sooner versus later if they're going to come back and
You would think
renegotiate?
usually typically a year out or so, because that's when they'll make their decisions. Keep the store open, do another store, or
Mike, it's my
whatever direction they
understanding
might
it's different ownership now. I was talking to Julie today about these payments.
Yeah.
So the same group that the council approved the agreement with. There's a different group now that owns the center, and I don't know how in touch they are with what's going on, but we'll wait and see.
It's been handed off twice now.
And that's true of part of the Walmart also. Walmart was a
Yeah.
two-part incentive, part to Walmart and part to the owner of the center. The ownership of the center has changed in that interim period.
Right. But I'm under the impression that Home Depot store is a pretty high-volume store.
It's doing, I've had conversations with them, and they're in a good position.
Yeah, so hopefully that means staying put.
Are they beating Woodridge, do you know?
Yeah.
Dan would say yes, even if they weren't, but
That won't take much, Woodridge.
Any more
I don't
questions?
want Woodridge listening to us.
Yes, we love you, Woodridge. Being good neighbors. Any more questions on the rebates for Walmart or Home Depot?
We're busy.
Okay, marketing material and chamber grant. We voted on the chamber grant last night at City Council. Any questions on marketing material? Those are both in the discretionary areas?
That's the same as last year, correct?
That is correct.
Yes. Okay. We'll tick along to other areas, office supplies, training, travel, vehicle gas. Anything on those areas? Okay, let's get down to contractual services. We've got two areas. We've got the contingency, of course, and then we've got OpenGov permitting software.
Yeah, that has increased quite a bit, basically, because of the OpenGov licensing business. You want to address that, Dan, or just
Sure.
tell us a little bit about it? Because that's a new item. It's in maintenance, but it is new to here. I know we talked about
And
it
just to highlight,
last
I'm
year.
sure you guys have figured out, but like where there's a asterisk in the column between the, that's done, there's backup. So
Okay.
just hone in on that. But Dan?
Thank
per
you.
Per Mike?
So specifically, we're talking about the contractual services account 204325, and with the asterisks, that's the OpenGov licensing, business, and property maintenance. We're in the process of finally implementing, and it's going to be we're going to be taking off on the platform for these two services. First one is the business property or property maintenance. The property maintenance is now going to be basically streamlined, automated, where elected officials and/or staff and/or residents will be able to see any type of complaints that have been lodged against a property for code violations, property maintenance code violations. In conjunction with that, that's one platform. The second platform is business licensing. So the business licensing is also now going to become automated, where businesses home occupations as well as all local businesses will have the opportunity to go online and fill out the complete application. It's going to be a little bit of a process at first. Obviously, like anything, you're filling out forms for the first time. With that done, we're also automating it to the point where you'll be able to pay with a credit card over the internet, if you want to say, through a separate service, but it's all integrated into this OpenGov. So what this basically is this is a licensing. This licensing basically provides us all the cloud service updates, continuous updates on an annual basis.
So that charge would be typically an annual charge.
That is
Is it
correct.
fixed for a couple years or anything, or,
That's 1 year.
so it can go up every year?
There's a cap. I believe we have a three-year contract with them right now, or a 3-year annual subscription. But we'll do it in 1 year at a time, and it's significantly.
So that price should stay that way for 3 years, since that's the
It's
agreement?
close to it. I believe a couple percent. Obviously upwards.
Every year?
I know we had the backup. I just wanted the public, if they're listening, I mean, it is a new item, and
Right.
since it is in maintenance, wanted it addressed a little bit.
And we also had this on the agenda item originally when we presented the entire packages of what the subscription costs would be as well.
And when they want to pay online with the credit card, will we be passing on the service fee to the consumer who's paying so that the city's not absorbing that?
That is correct, and it's through a company called Swipe Swipe, I believe it is, that integrates the OpenGov platform, so it should be very seamless.
We did budget the OpenGov last year,
That is correct.
and didn't use it?
We
We just used the
software. The software was implemented along with the training, so we had, a lot of software engineering to complete in order to get the platforms onto a web base.
How much are we using of it now?
We just started training, in other words, doing some simulations with businesses. We've got a couple things that we need to work out. The code, property maintenance, that should be implemented by next week. We're getting the printer, as a matter of fact, for the code enforcement officers set up, so it'll be a one-stop shop where she goes out to the actual residents with a laptop and a printer, and whatever the violation is, a letter is basically on point right there and at the time, and tickets will be issued in the same respect.
I'm just trying to see what the difference is between last year and this year. So last year, we budgeted 10,000 for code enforcement software and 45 for OpenGov business and property software.
Correct, that was the
So now,
software.
this year, are we just taking,
This is only for the licensing this year.
Oh, that's why I didn't see it. Okay.
Last year,
so we have 26,859 for licensing, business, and property maintenance.
Both of
And then we
them.
have 35,000 for permitting of the software. So did a portion, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how this is working. Well, we have two items for OpenGov under contractual services, where last year we had one, and it totaled 45,000.
Right, that
This
was-
year, the two added together totaled 61,859.
are you looking at the line item down to code enforcement services?
38.5, remember?
Well, the open permitting is brand new, so it's an
Right.
increase.
The permitting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're down on the next one, the open permit governing software for 35,000, right?
Correct.
I'm sorry,
I'm
that's a
just,
new program.
I'm just trying. Okay, but and that's why maybe last year's budget didn't explain it well, because last year's budget just says 45,000 for it. It says OpenGov business and property software, 45,000.
Correct, that's what we did this year. There's two platforms. The first one is for the property maintenance, and that's the licensing. That was completed with that package, whatever that package was worth, I believe was 45, I'd have to take a look at what that package was worth. Now, this year, we have another platform for the permitting software.
Okay. So, again, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So last year we spent 45,000 ballpark on the business and property software. This year we're going to still spend on the business and property software maintenance plus the new software.
Correct.
Okay.
So we will have.
So it's $16,000 more because we're getting more.
We're getting
Right.
more, and Dan, the code enforcement software was included, I think, Tom, in what you're saying is in that 45 last year, which
Oh,
is
it
not in this year, Dan?
Right.
No, it was 10,000.
10,000 was a part of that number, yes.
Right. Well, it was 55 last year. 10 of it was code enforcement.
Correct.
45 was,
Correct. And I didn't know what the number was, but now you brought it back to my attention here, yes.
so the code enforcement services will be an annual now
Correct.
with what you just explained. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, if you look at page 45, it indicates it's a 36-month arrangement, and it shows how it goes up a certain percentage. It looks like, is it 5%?
5%?
5% each year.
Okay.
I'm sorry, one question, Tom. You said something about code enforcement services,
Yeah, what's
if I
the
understood.
38?
That's our code enforcement officer.
Oh, that's her
Contractual.
salary.
That's
Oh,
Karen,
Right,
that's
Dan,
not up in
that's-
salaries then?
Right.
Okay, and that's the same.
Why wouldn't that be up in salaries then?
because she's a consultant.
It's hourly, so it's depending on
Oh.
hours, and I don't know if she's requesting an increase or not, Dan.
No, she has, and everything is
So-
status quo.
yeah.
And I think we'll be even actually reducing it just due to the efficiency that will be part of this as well. This will be the first year we're now implementing the actual software in the field.
And there are going to be like other minor cost savings because of this time-wise. I mean,
Correct.
Certainly time and not having to go back, type up letters and do things like
Correct.
that. Right.
Correct.
So more efficient. So that's for the, obviously, property management side. But then when you skip down to the permitting software, that's new.
That is
And then there's
correct.
corresponding, I guess, would you say equipment
Correct.
to go along with that, which is on page 36.
Correct.
So do you want to explain that a little bit more?
Sure. And this is going to dovetail now with the rest of the OpenGov platform. So again, this OpenGov permitting software is a brand-new item. And basically what it does is automates the building department. contractors, homeowners will have the opportunity to go online, fill out a permit, do a review on it. After they submit it back to us, those review comments will be put into that file. The resident/contractor or staff will then be able to look at a status and/or update statuses, including inspections. Inspections will be generated through this platform, and the inspections will actually be noted, whether it's a pass, fail, deficiency, so on and so forth. I'm hoping that we could also get the final occupancy on this. That's a different, again, this is all the engineering components that need to be basically vetted with the engineers through OpenGov. Now, so OpenGov has the ability now, will have the ability to function on all platforms, so we're not dealing with OpenGov here, a different company here, so on and so forth. So again, we wanted to have continuity, and this is something that prior to Alderman Vaughn, we had vetted with Alderman Vaughn. He was in the programming / computer business. So again, we spent a lot of time to vet these services. And what this also does is it also will give residents, contractors the ability to license themselves on this application. Again, licensing is not the same as what you see above. That's business licenses. This is contractor, vendor licenses. And also they'll have the opportunity to use credit cards via the platform once again. And also what's in there is it continues down. There's the actual building laserfish scanning. This is, of all the files we have, if you ever, obviously when you walk upstairs, we have rows of files, 2 rows. If you try to go into those files, you're lucky you could open them. We've got so much paper in there, there's no more room to put more files, file cabinets, and it's time to get rid of the paper and go into a cloud service. So what all those files that you see upstairs there will all be boxed, and the company will pick them up, tag them, scan them, bring them back, and then it's our responsibility to determine, okay, how much longer do we need to keep them, and then to destroy them, and then we'll have a permanence backup. And the backup also we have through a repository that was installed as part of the equipment last year. And again, some technical stuff here, but that's that. So I've also got AIS, which is our computer consultant, to set up any type of configurations for the scanners that we need to purchase. The scanners, I'm looking at putting in scanners for Mary, Jordan, Maria, and Dorothy. All these stations are individual people. With that said, when Mary's taking care of somebody else comes in for something else, where Jordan might be taking a shed permit, he needs to check with floodplain. So Mary can't complete that. Mary can do something else. Jordan has to get certain documents in certain cases together. And the efficiency of this is that the computer's right there, the scanner's right there, scans it, drops it into this file. Same thing for Mary. Dorothy gets a payment, it's scanned, put in that file. Instead of having a central scanner, I tried a central scanner in the copy room. It's not efficient. It's people are walking around, people are getting distracted. So they're about, obviously $11,000 is for 4 of them here. So there's, they have the ability to do color as well. So that I thought was important. And then with the Laserfish licenses, the licenses are $5,230. The Laserfish annual license is $800, and I know I've got a further breakdown of future licenses, which should be a recurring annual cost. And again, the AIS data disaster recovery, that's something that's already part of the repository. That's a $3,000 expense, annual expense, but that's expense is not part of the new program. So
Dan, are the items you just said, the Laserfish, the AIS, the scanners in the new licenses, are those all one-time costs?
the only one that's not a one-time cost are the licenses. The license are,
It's 5230, then what's the difference between new Laserfish license is 8 and Laserfish annual license?
that's
right beneath.
currently what we have right now.
Okay.
Yes, that's
So-
a maintenance.
So going forward, it's going to be about $6,000?
That is
for everything?
correct, yes. And I've got further breakdowns, it should be in the backup. I don't have it readily available.
Yeah, doesn't our copier have the scanning capabilities to it? So if you're going in there just putting something, like if you were going to do a copy and it goes, you have the option of copying or scanning it to?
Yes, it does have some capabilities of that. Again, what I'm moving towards is the efficiency, the one-time cost. The copier goes down, Maria needs a copier, we're all backed up, basically at the water fountain, kibitzing, and everybody's losing, getting distracted.
Any other questions on these items? Anything else, Dan, on that?
That's all I have.
Okay. Okay, then we'll move on to contractual services.
We didn't have electrical inspections or building and plumbing in the last budget. Is that
We did, I kind of broke it up.
somewhere else?
Yeah,
in the
it
budget?
was another we moved it here, 2043-28. I've gone back, Julie and I have been working on this for the last couple months, just to make sure that what's coming in as revenue, what's going out as an expense. In some cases, there's a refund due on a deposit, for example, a plan review. A plan review might cost $100 and only 50 was utilized. So it becomes a debit and a credit, if you want to say. Bonds are somewhat of the same category. Inspections, we might have a building that comes in for a house and we say the building, it's $2,000. And of that $2,000, there's plumbing, electrical, framing, finals, re-inspections potentially. So of that $2,000, we could hit that $2,000, or we could hit 1,700, or we could possibly go over, which we have to go back to the contractor and or homeowner to get the additional money. So this is one of those that we have a good handle on it. Mike, I'm not sure if you want to chime in on it. I know that this one was somewhat of the,
Well, I think what Tom's question is, and it was going to be my question too, is we have been paying these in the past.
Obviously, we've done
approve it
building
all the time.
inspections.
But
So-
even I didn't see it in any previous, other category in this
Well, that's
section.
why I
I
was
just
wondering
broke it
where
down.
it was last year. How did we pay for
it was
buildings?
all in it. It's more broken down now. Okay,
what
from-
was
Well, no,
it?
last year we had 60-some thousand in contractual services. This year we got 99.
Right, there's one or two items were taken from the accounts.
68.
I moved them, let
68.
me see if I have a note. It was moved from,
I mean, what he says, Tom, and I've been working with Julie on this, and what I'd like to see is.
Oh, I see, okay.
I moved
is what we do is we'll charge if we're charging a resident for something and then they reimburse us. We've been showing the charge as income and we've been showing the payment that we made to the vendor as an expense. So you can't necessarily match the two up. So you might have a reimbursable expense of $10,000, but I think it's important to know if we have a reimbursable expense of 10 and we've only been reimbursed 8, so we have the net of 2. I've been trying to get Julie, working with Julie, to try and get those together instead of having one in a revenue account, one in an expense account, where you really have to go fishing for the two to put together. But I think to address Tom's point, I was going to ask the same question. These expenses had to be in something.
Well,
last
I'm
year.
seeing on last year we had building and plumbing in 4325, and this year we have it in 4328.
4328, we had, that's this year. I'm looking
And
at-
electrical, both of them
Yeah,
were
let
in.
me go
in-
back. I
in-
need to go
and
back
legal.
into my-
They were all in 4325 last
Okay,
year.
yeah, you're right.
So that,
Okay, so
I
you
didn't
just
catch
moved
it
it
until
from
now,
one
so that
to the
explains
other.
it. I'm just,
Get it, because they're both the same, they're both the same numbers, right?
right, where did it come from, you know?
Yeah.
I know we did building inspections.
So you just feel like the
We're just putting
pulling
them in
out of
different.
25 and putting, it's just a,
Yeah, we're okay.
Right.
Or whatever.
okay.
Are we clear on that? I'm saying-
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I found it in 4325 last year.
That's what I was
Been
just
categorized-
looking,
It's just from a
categorized
different
differently.
Right.
pot to a different pot.
I put it all.
But it's the same numbers, that's fine.
Yes.
Where it belongs.
It was just made sense to be there.
Is everyone good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Any more questions on contractual services? Okay. And then there's nothing under capital purchases right now. Okay. Any other additional questions on Community Development Department budget? Nope. Okay. Then we are moseying on to municipal services.
Sorry, I was just looking, just as a side note, and if somebody mentioned, I missed it. There's the revenues, there's a corresponding revenue for those reimbursables. So if you look, it's 99, it's the same number.
So it doesn't make a difference.
It really doesn't, yeah. So if we have less on the expense, we'll have a little less revenue. If we have more, we'll have some more revenue.
Because those are reimbursable expenses. Okay. And I applaud the change so that it's tracked better so they tie together.
Not there yet.
Yeah,
We're
but
working on it.
we're making progress.
And Alderman
Okay.
Sullivan, just to clarify, looked at the backup for the OpenGov licensing for the permitting. It's 24,000 a year then.
But Mike, aren't those like tied to like a work order or something, like some kind of a centralized number so you know they're going against the same?
I don't know. Do you know, do we do work orders on anything, Dan?
As far as,
No,
The contractual expenses that he's talking about that,
when you say work orders, I think the best example is, well, it's really difficult to say.
no, because Mike was saying like if you have revenue from somebody, now it's reimbursable. Isn't that tied to like a job order or something that you can?
Yes, it's a building permit, and a building permit has a schedule of fees. So a house comes in, there's five or seven categories, and there's a rule of thumb. That rule of thumb is, okay, for a brand-new house, there's gonna be 3 inspections on electrical, let's say. A potential of 3. Plumbing, same thing. So all of those are charged a certain fee. That's what our consultants, a pass-through cost. Now, do we ever overestimate on the number of inspections? The answer is yes. When I say overestimate, there may be a couple $100 or so. It's a revenue in that case.
But usually we reimburse that amount
That's
at the end.
correct.
I think what Dan is saying, not a particular work order, but in the building permit, when somebody comes in, you want to build a house. You're going to have 6 different categories, whether it's electrical, plumbing, or whatever. The total of those charges is $6,000. Before you start building the house, you have to give us a check for $6,000. Then, as the charges start coming in, I know Mary generally tracks that, doesn't she?
Correct.
She usually tracks, okay, we have $6,000, we've had 2 electrical inspections for $1,000, so there's $5,000 remaining, and work it down until completion. And I don't think there's ever been an undercharge on that. I think we usually.
No,
would- and
we're good about that. And again, there's a typical building permit fee as well.
It's not a work order per se, it's on an individual building permit type of thing.
You could translate it into a work order, so it is a working document that gives you all the expenses, and all the expenses are now 100% tied to the accounts that we just went through, which I just went through with Julie. So it becomes a little more accurate and vetted.
and then in the end, everything's reconciled, like
Oh,
by the
yeah,
time the
that's-
occupancy permit is issued or something like that?
Right,
Okay.
bonds are returned, usually at the end of the year, Julie and I will run through the bonds, and you might see a return of $10,000 because they gave us cashier's checks. We hold on to that till, the house is built, or usually a year, depending on what the project is. On a bond from an insurance company, obviously that just expires or we terminate it. So, but the cash, cashier's checks, and we return.
I'd just like to be able to track overall, we're charging 100,000 and we're getting reimbursed 100. As a practical matter, the two will never match because overlapping fiscal years, we might be getting charges in one year and payments in the
Sure.
other. But as long as they're relatively close, then nothing to be too concerned about.
Which they are.
Okay.
Yes, Brian.
Dan, not to confuse everything, but there is a little different procedure prior to the building permit. Like,
Planning application.
yeah, so if somebody hasn't got their building permit yet, but we have Christopher Burke has to do a review, that's a separate accounting.
That's
or-
all in here now, too. Under
That's all in
engineering,
there
yes,
now?
Yes,
Okay.
engineering services. So in some cases, depending on what the permit is,
Yeah.
it has to go out for another third-party review to an engineering firm to make sure that calculations, structural, whatever the case is, that's a reimbursable. So in this case, we use Chris Burke for that. Typically, whatever, maybe $150. That review fee is passed on as a expense then, and that's passed through.
Okay. Any other questions on Community Development Department? Okay, we're going to put that to rest. We are now on page 65, Municipal Services. Okay. So right off the bat, we see something with an increase. Salaries. If you look at page 66, under summary, it'll explain that there is a new hire requested. Questions? Dan, you want to explain?
Sure, and a new hire is requested. Yeah, it seems like, we have a great staff. That's one thing I have to say. With that great staff, we have long-term employees. Long-term employees are getting additional vacation time. That's first of all. Second of all, that we all realize that we get sick and so on and so forth. Injuries can happen. At the same time, our workloads seem to be getting more and more busier, if you want to say. With that said, it's been very difficult to get employees, especially with some of the employees that we have for succession. Over the last year, we've had some people that have left, actually one from each department, whatever the case was. We had a very difficult time filling that. As a matter of fact, the water plant operator, we were fortunate enough to have one person on staff that basically stepped up and said, yeah, I'll take the second operator in charge responsibility. Very, very difficult to find someone without a salary in six figures, if you want to say. That's one example. So again, by doing this, it's going to make us more efficient. And, sometimes we all hear these excuses, well, we don't have time to do it. Obviously, no one wants to hear that. So we want to make sure that we have the opportunities to have that employee trained for succession, for emergencies, for snow plowing, especially when we rotate shifts, and for guys to be able to go on vacation in the winter. Right now, it's basically 2 crews from November through March, basically, although last 2 years have been an anomaly with the light snows, no questions asked. But it's given guys an opportunity to be rested and motivated at the same time.
Mayor, I think
Yes.
as Dan had mentioned, and we'll hear the same thing with the police department. If you have 12 people in the street department, you are rarely at full staff. Somebody could be on a family medical leave, workers' comp. So again, that our actual staffing on the street is not always what's allocated in the budget. We just have incidents where, again, right now, somebody's on a workers' comp claim. They could be on for, I don't know, it could be a few months yet. So, one person down, Dan, it makes a difference.
Oh, it hurts us right now. And to Brian's point, without details, we have one gentleman that's on workman's comp, and it's not looking good. What does that mean at the end of the day? I don't know yet. But again, laws govern us, and we need to be sensitive to that as well.
And that could linger for quite some time.
Yes. We just
But shouldn't you see a decrease in your overtime, though, if you're adding a person?
It's
Because I'm seeing, like, the overtime staying about the same. I would think the work's getting done now, somehow, right?
it's getting done. Correct. Is it stressed out across the board? The answer is yes. Will it reduce overtime? Will we have a tornado? Will we have emergency events? Will we have water main breaks? Keep in mind that both departments are cross-trained. So we have the ability to pull crews to pull an individual from another crew and put them on this crew. Emergencies will always happen, whether it's severe rain events, whether it's call-outs for residents that need assistance with something. Watering, for example, watering, I see that being reduced this year just because of all the larger projects that we've been doing with restoration. Those should be reduced. But again, we're still going to require weekends, and when we do main break restoration, we have to water the sod. Unfortunately, not every resident wants to help us in that respect. We drop off letters, ask them to water. We don't want to lose the sod, so again, there's some overtime in that, Jerry.
Yes, Mike?
One question I have, Brian, and this probably may relate more to you. I've been reading, like, starting January 1st, there's a new requirement that employees be given a certain amount of paid time off.
It's irrelevant because we're union. It
Okay.
doesn't, yeah, that's all
That-
covered in the
That
contract.
was my question.
It
whether
hit
that-
us on actually some part-time summer workers for about 2 hours for the whole year. So it's for us, it doesn't have an impact. Very
you.
minimal.
Joe, you raising your hand or?
Oh, ma'am.
Scratching your head. Okay. Any other questions on salary? Benefits obviously coincide with the increase. Any questions on benefits? Okay. Let's mosey down to operating. Liability insurance. And then we do have two new items. OSHA compliance program, class 3 safety vest, night operator. Any questions on anything under operating?
So well, go ahead.
Joe
Mike,
Kenny.
go ahead. So I guess my question is that if the salaries went up, it doesn't look like, unless I'm looking at it wrong, did the liability insurance go up too then? Or no? Because if you get more people, yeah?
Our liability insurance is a revenue base. We're part of intergovernmental co-op. So they calculate our premium every year based on our kind of our general fund revenues, plus they'll do a loss history. So if we've had a good, I'll just use 5 years as an example, that will help us get a reduction on the premium. If we've had bad years on the calculation, we might get hit with a little more money, but Lisa handles most of that. We've been doing pretty well on,
Right.
Mike, you're gonna say something?
Well, I'm while we're on liability
Oh.
insurance, yeah, I agree with what Brian's saying as far as addressing you while we're on liability insurance, though.
Mike, maybe you could just comment real quick. I thought that's maybe what you're going to say, the balance we have with Irma.
Oh, okay, no, okay, yeah, what Brian's addressing there, our liability insurance is covered by Irma. Basically, it's a self-insuring organization, but among many municipalities. And we deposit so much money in there, they invest the surplus, and they've been getting an excellent rate of return. I think the last year was maybe 7% or something. So we have been paying the minimum that we need to fund the liability insurance with them while keeping the balance on deposit that's getting this better return for us. In the event we do have something catastrophic, we can always draw from those reserves, pull it back for covering our insurance for 1, possibly 2 years, depending what the number is that year. Is that what you're talking?
Yeah, and that does show in our fund balance, Mike,
Right.
so it is there.
It is already reflected in the fund balance because it is an asset that's carried when the auditors do it. Naturally, it is an asset for us.
Deposit somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The thing I was going to bring up, though, and I mentioned this to you before, Brian, on the current year, you're projecting $23,000 for the estimated actual, and as of the end of January, we're already at 27.6. Well, we're already a few $1,000s higher than that, so.
Yeah, and again, what Mike's mentioning really happens every year. Some of the numbers we have to go on are probably already 30 days old, and every time there's a bill list, Julie will send us new numbers. So we will tinker with some of these year-to-date numbers.
But we are
As we
already
go
over
along.
on that one, so I just wanted to point that out to you so you know to hone in on that one.
And Mike, I was looking, you're saying the
Year-to-date
whole
actual.
liability,
The account for liability
The
insurance
account,
on the
okay.
summary sheet, you're showing
Yep,
23,000, and it was showing 27.6.
okay.
And obviously, we still have more time to go, too. Anything else on liability insurance? Any of the other items listed under operating? Questions on any of the other items? Okay. We'll move on to maintenance building. Any questions on maintenance building items on page 66? Okay, moving on to page 67, maintenance building continued. We do have some new items, replacing a city hall generator and replacing a police department generator. And there's backup in the corresponding pages. And lastly, office window, entryway, door, public works facility. Any questions on any more of the maintenance building items. Maintenance equipment. Any questions on the equipment? Okay. Moving on to maintenance vehicles, general maintenance vehicles. Okay. Postage, I don't think so. Rent
I'm
equipment.
sorry, Mayor, we have one, under the maintenance and equipment, there's, I think a duplicate, but it's scanners for Chris, Dave, Dennis, Don, for 18. That will be taken out.
So this is a duplicate.
Yes.
Okay. $1,800 remove. Okay, thank you.
Good job.
We're down to rent equipment, account 30-4243.
Is tub grinder what we do for the double grind?
That is correct.
Is it lower this year?
It's a couple percent more.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, we have it for 3 times. The prices have increased. So with the tub grind, there's only basically 2 companies in town. Now we're getting your own machinery on that. It's it's a large piece of machinery, high maintenance item.
Gotcha.
So we currently turn, I think, about half of it is about 3,000 to 3,500 is what we receive in profit, or I should say, sales.
Okay.
Last year was budgeted at 62, so we're going 300 higher on that.
Okay.
And we're listing the Vector rental there, even though we're not putting any money, because we know we're purchasing it, right?
Well, I put it in there.
We're requesting
yes.
to purchase.
Requesting
We're
purchase, rather.
requesting to purchase, and appreciate your input, Alderman Kenny, on what's up.
I was being,
That's Mr. Positive over there.
hey, I said VAC, I didn't say building facility, okay? So, so don't get too cocky, okay?
Yes, sir.
Can we,
But that'll go away, pending our discussion on,
So can we wait to talk about the purchase versus rental once we get to the purchase item?
yes.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Anything else on equipment rental? Okay, supplies, office supplies, and other supplies to round out page 67. Any questions? There's lots of supporting documents for other supplies. So obviously, there's going to be some banner upgrades this year and new banner replacements.
Where are those?
They're every year, aren't
Where are
they?
those being placed?
In the same locations they've been. This will be the last upgrade for the newer type of material. We've gone through a season. Last year, I believe we did the winter. Year before, I believe we did the fall. So this
And we
will be-
got this holiday season of 85. Is that 75th Street?
Sorry, holiday season.
We're not there yet. We're
Okay.
still on page 67. We'll be on page 68 in a minute. Anything else on page 67 for supplies other?
Yeah, the contractual landscape, that's the stuff on 75th Street?
No, it's just general contractual restoration services for, say we do a stormwater project, and the stormwater project involves, 2,000 feet of sod. Well, we don't have the ability to do that.
Got it.
It's miscellaneous restoration is what it boils down to.
Okay, thank you.
Mary?
Yes.
While we're on this section, though, we were talking about these banners.
Yes.
And where to go? Spring and summer banner upgrades, $5,000. I know I'm jumping ahead, but I did have a note that on account 4815, later on under equipment, there's fall and spring banner replacements for $15,000. Is that in addition to this? or-
Yes, the banner replacements are general replacements, and again, I skipped ahead to that replacement to your point, Mike, but the banner replacements every year, whether it's high winds, the brackets, or they get damaged. Typically, it's because of the high winds. So we do end up replacing some. It's a contingency for whatever breaks.
So this is more, in account 30-4257, this is more like the general maintenance of banners.
That is correct.
Whereas Mike's referring to actually purchasing, acquiring brand-new banners.
Correct, removal and replacement alike, if you want
I'm
to say.
just
anyway.
trying to confirm that they're not duplications.
They're not.
Right,
No,
no,
no, they're
that's a
not.
good question. Okay. Okay.
This has been in there before, too, as far
Okay.
as the maintenance.
Yeah, but
goes.
it's not under discretionary, so I
Right.
figured as much. It's more of a maintenance. Okay, any more questions on supplies others, page 67? Okay, let's turn it on over. I know Eric's chewing at the bit to dig into the next, but let's first hit, we did get a amended document, if I'm not mistaken, for the anti-icing, de-icing. Wasn't that one of the ones we had added?
We got that last night.
Yes. So just want to point
Dan, we
that
just
out.
added the backup. The number was in
Right,
there.
the number's the same, it's just back up again for it.
Right, the backup is provided, but I just want to tie it into what was handed last night, so everyone is aware.
Do we have, did we use less of that this year? I mean, we haven't had the storms. I know we use it every time that we think there's gonna be a storm, but is it like the salt? Are we accruing this stuff?
I don't know yet.
Does it expire?
It doesn't expire. The answer is no. The problem, again, and I was having a conversation with someone else on this the other day, and I'm trying to put some type of report together. The report, if I was to put one together, would be very bogus, and it would show us savings drastically, and that's not the case, because I want to do a 5-year comparison, and I can't do a 5-year comparison just on the seasons that we have had, or the lack of snowfall and/or freezing rains that we've had.
So Dan, you have leftover supply,
We have
like you
leftover,
might
right,
salt.
That's kind of, so the number you put in there is what you would normally spend.
That is correct.
Even if we have inventory.
I'm sorry?
Even if you have inventory of it currently.
Well, I'm
that's-
gonna take a look at what we used in the last
Yeah.
2 years now, and more than likely, that number will be reduced, but here we are, when we're doing a budget, I'm not through with the season yet, so was difficult. If I got days like
We've had
this.
Easter snows before.
Oh, yeah, yeah, exactly.
So the middle of April.
Right.
Okay. Any more questions on anti-icing, de-icing? Okay. Let's hop down to holiday season lighting downtown corridor for $85,000.
Yeah, so it looks like on page 102, the predominance of this is on county roads, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Now, how much is the county putting in?
How that coming?
0.
And have we asked them?
They, more than happy to ask them, but they have never participated with landscape projects, so with any type of lighting project, I'm sure the answer would be the same.
Do they participate at all with Woodridge or anybody else?
No.
They don't.
I mean, that isn't, as a pet peeve of mine.
And just to clarify, while they're all on county roads, one of the sites here is the village, the city hall. So again, city hall will be discounted from anything that DuPage County would possibly entail. The clock tower, the goals are to have lighting decorations, something that has some character to it, and obviously aesthetics, be at the city hall, over at the clock tower, the corner of 75th Street and Plainfield Road, with lighting on all the trees, the bigger berm that we have. We recently found out that we cannot have lighting, or I should say, limited lighting and/or any type of displays on the medians of 75th Street, Plainfield //. So we tried to do this project this year. I think we got too late into the season with it. A lot of the inventory was already gone. It's very difficult to take these companies that manufacture these trees, for example. They come in different heights. So a 12-foot tree, they might call it a Scottish pine. It's obviously an artificial tree. Either comes in steel or stainless. You could add to it in the future. From a 12-footer, you can go to 24-footer. Compare it to another company, and it's $3,000 cheaper. Why? Just the material. What's better, what's not. So it was very difficult for us to find apples for apples. So we have a consultant that provides a free service next week to come and evaluate the sites and provide a recommendation of what should be there. Fortunately, we're not experts at the lighting. I know what I'd like to see, but.
Water.
Water and lights.
Which go well together.
Water
right?
and a couple
Dan, was
flashlights
it, I
is
know
all
at
you
one
need.
point there was discussion of using a service that would be, their equipment, they would put it up, take it down, store it, and we would just write the check versus having to maintain, replace, all that.
That's
Was-
true.
Was a cost for that put out there?
It's still, that's going to be vetted after we get the designer to come in and tell us what will be recommended, take those recommendations, provide them to a couple services that, to your point, have those types of business where they put them up, take them down, store them, put them back up following year, so on and so forth.
Because right now, what you're proposing to pursue is that the city would purchase all of this.
Right, exactly. It could be a purchase, could be a contractual. If it's a contractual, they'll come back and it'll be an annual basis. Will it be more economical? I don't know the answer today yet without not knowing what the ingredients will be.
Okay.
Is this just the tip of the iceberg for future years? Or is this 85 really going to get us anywhere?
That's up to the city council.
Yeah, and it was 60,000 last year.
Did we
so it's
spend
already
any
up
of the 60?
25. I'm sorry?
Did we spend any of the 60 last year?
I don't know.
The answer is no, and the reason it's up, we've got
No,
some,
Nobody
explain
knows we
why.
didn't spend it, so why
That's
spend it
fine.
any?
So you're asking for 25,000 more
That we
than we didn't spend last year?
Yeah.
correct, correct.
I like the didn't spend attitude.
Right, and, again, it's how expensive these,
Do we have a estimated life expectancy of these things?
Yeah, good question.
not, if I go steel, 5 years. If I go stainless steel, 10 years. So again, it depends on the products that we're looking at, and the lighting has been improved. Is it 5 years, 10 years? Again, that's
So
something,
you'd be comfortable saying everything should last 5 years?
yes, bare minimal.
Tom, I can't tell you specifically, but in that account that we're looking at, the total that we budgeted, the current year is 267,000. Through January, we've spent 86. So I can't believe even the 60 was spent. I don't know what.
Right.
the
It
other-
wasn't.
Okay.
So everything that we saw, we already had.
Yes.
I mean, we can't even get a full busload of people to go out and look at the Christmas lights, let alone, put up lights all through down 75th Street. That just rubs me the wrong way.
I think as Dan said, this is really a council policy discussion.
understand.
Yeah, more than Dan. So if you have questions back and forth, that's really
Yeah.
for the elected group.
Yeah,
We're one of the few communities that does not decorate. And although very minor, there was some criticism as to why you could go to Lamont, you can go to Westmont, you can go to other communities and see beautiful holiday decorations in their, quote, downtown areas.
yeah.
And you come to Darien and you see nothing. And
They're also coming to eat and drink, and, I mean, there's a whole,
yeah, and
Come down,
what
yeah.
what it does is
Parade.
the holiday lights do draw people to the area. We're also looking at the possibility that sometime in the future, that very ugly tree that we decorate at the
By Lake
Historical
School,
Society
yeah.
is going to fall, or it needs to come down.
it's looking pretty bad, yeah.
And there's a
That's one of the items the consultant will also be looking at. I have not, I told Mayor Marquez that I'd be reaching out to the historical district in regards to, taking that tree down and putting something up on an annual basis.
by Lake School, and redevelop it.
Well, you mean putting up a temporary tree?
Temporary tree during the holiday season and maybe just throwing in some landscaping that'll just blend in with the building itself. But that tree, again, for our guys it's an embarrassment for our guys to be decorating while we're decorating out there. It's basically
A lot of it's
the
bare.
Snoopy show.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to the Historical Society, and John Carr has looked at that tree, and he's basically assessed the fact that that tree is dying. And with the good of windstorm, that tree could fall. And I brought this up with them, and they're so protective of that tree that they are calling Morton Arboretum to send out an arborist to determine whether or not that tree is in fact dying. And to me, that's a waste of money because we have an arborist.
Yeah, Mr.
And when I
Carson,
asked,
right?
I asked whether or not you would take our arborist recommendation, they said they don't trust our arborist. I'm serious. They don't trust our arborist. I just found this out from Mrs. Marquez, who told me the discussion at the meeting that they had. They basically said, we don't trust their arborist. We'll pay to have somebody come out and assess that tree.
That have
Really?
money.
So if they want to spend money on it,
How
let
much
us
is that
know.
gonna cost?
Pardon me?
How much is that gonna cost?
I don't know. Well,
Bags of fertilizer.
They might be able to negotiate a freebie.
but that tree is dying, and
The aesthetics of it are very poor at
Is
best.
there another tree in Darien that could be used to be the Christmas tree on an annual basis at a park or?
Mary, I dare you
Someone's
to
front
ask the
yard.
Historical Society, you have a tree lighting somewhere other than that corner.
Well, we probably shouldn't have sent the one we had here downtown to the center, right?
Well, there's lots of other
I think
trees.
I'm kinda
like
there,
trees like that
yeah.
in that neighborhood.
Along 70, I mean, can't we just think
I'm gonna
about the
freeze it and
clock
bring it
tower
back.
or just 75th and Lace and just try to do something nice in those two
we
areas?
just
That's kind of like a
Decorate the
Well,
clock
City
tower.
Hall-
center of our,
I would like,
Yeah.
I would like to
Should've
see
taken
City
that
Hall
Darien tree that
decorated.
went to
City Hall
Chicago and put it over there.
has absolutely no decorations on it. I'd like to see, we have this beautiful balcony now, and we don't decorate it. We don't decorate the building at all.
Santa Claus up there.
So, I mean, to me, this is, it's important in terms of our image of who we are. And I know a lot of people are going to sit back and say, why should we spend $85,000 on image? But we're one of the few communities that doesn't do any decorating. And I think that's terrible that we don't do any decorating.
Yeah, we can always eliminate 75th and Plainfield, but 75th and Plainfield, we looked at, it's so huge of an intersection, and it's a main corridor for everybody to come and go. So again, the purpose of it there was to, create that atmosphere during the holiday season.
Dan, I'm sorry, I don't recall, the crews still put up the wreaths, did we still do
Oh, yeah,
that?
yeah, no,
Okay,
everything we
I
do is
didn't-
still status quo. There's been, the REITs have worked out great. If we recall, we bought those probably 7 years ago at this point. So we have not really invested any additional monies.
And that goes on the welcome signs.
That goes, actually, they go on to the 75th Street corridor, Cass Avenue corridor, the clock tower. I don't
I thought we put
recall.
something on the welcome signs.
No, we have lighting that we want to put in on those signs, but that's upcoming too here, so, yeah, no, I knows we don't.
These decorations are gonna go on whose property?
Yeah.
Counties,
Yeah.
well, I'm sorry, City Hall, our property.
Right.
Clock Tower, our property. 75th and Plainfield, that will be the county
Kill
property.
somebody who's liable.
The county property, but it's so far back with that entire berm that we set up over there.
But we've also already kind of opened up Pandora's box because we've done landscaping. I mean, we've taken over landscaping on the county thoroughfares and the medians and in that berm. So we've already planted things and are maintaining things.
Like, the berm is so far set back that it creates it's a good atmosphere, nice atmosphere.
Well, yeah, because if the
source
city
there?
didn't
No, that's
intervene,
why there's also partial increase because of the power source that we need to get there. We thought we could have gotten it off of the irrigation systems,
Go after the county.
but that's not gonna work.
anyone else with discussions, questions, comments? Jerry Legansky, Joe Kenny, Ralph, Ted?
So the 85,000 is kind of a placeholder, and then once you have the consultant give you an idea, will give us a better idea of what's going to be going in.
That is correct. It's gonna come back to the city, come back to the committee. If it gets approved as a placeholder this evening, it'll come back to a committee and the city council. And again, we took our best estimates based on the aesthetics that we would see and on the pricing on the catalogs and put some type of science together to it, along with the electrical service that could be required for 75th and Plainfield.
I'd like to leave it in the budget, and again, we're gonna cross this bridge later, and if we don't have the stomach to pay for whatever it's gonna take to put it at 75th and Plainfield, and we just wanna do it on a clock tower and do it at City Hall, we can cross that bridge later, but I'd like to keep it in the budget right now.
I like the idea of City Hall and that corner where the clock tower is. I do
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah, I do too.
but
It's a shame we can't put the white lights on the trees on the median and 75th, but
Well, 75th and Plainfield, Joe, we'll be able to do those, again, whether they're white lights or
Yeah.
colored lights. That's the goal of it over there, is the lights. No
But if we know the
real-
trees are prime already by Lay School, can't we just do something there that kind of replaces the tree and it's something else?
Provided that the Historical Society lets us take down the tree.
I think that tree's not going to come down until it falls down.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree.
or it's ready to
That
fall
could be
down.
10 years.
Jerry, they had an argument the other day about removing 2 branches.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure that, Jerry,
I'm
you might
sure
not
it is.
know, that's actually the school property.
Yeah, it's not our, we don't have the
Got it.
call on it.
Yeah, so the school has some
Got
say
it.
actually too, but I think
Okay.
what
I think
Joe
the
is saying.
Historical Society
But
leases
also
it for
we-
like $1, don't they, or something?
Pardon me?
Doesn't the Historical Society lease Old Lake Schoolhouse for like $1?
It's a school district's property.
We have the
Yeah.
maintenance agreement on that now too, don't forget. So if we really wanted to go in there and remove the tree, we do have that right.
Safety issue.
It is.
Oh, good luck with
Absolutely.
that. Don't let anyone have your home address
Right?
I would have a police patrol in front of your house.
I have
for
cameras.
service.
I'm
gotta
just,
buy
I'm
Lake
just telling you
School,
that,
but
I'm
we
just
need
a
to.
messenger. We have a maintenance agreement, so.
Okay. Okay, everyone agreement to keep it as a placeholder and more information forthcoming down the road?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Then we will, I'm sorry, Jerry, didn't mean to flip the page so quickly. Okay, moving on to small tools equipment. Anything there? Pretty straightforward. Training and education. Uniforms?
I'd like to jump in on this one. Just a question for you on this, Dan. The uniforms are showing 12 at 800 this year. Last year, they were 12 at 475. And then the safety boots is a new item this year for 3,000.
That's in the contract, Mike. After you had asked me that, I just went back to verify.
It's
the amounts.
contractual, both the boots and the
Yes.
amount for the uniform.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Utilities? Vehicle gas and oil.
So what are we anticipating there price-wise?
See, I have to take a look at,
Just out of curiosity.
I have to look at my backup sheet. I think I had 350, 375 for diesel going by memory, and unleaded, gasoline, I believe I had 275.
But it's the same number as that we had in the budget last year. Have we,
Right, yeah. So I felt
have
no
we
reason.
spent it, or?
No, we budgeted last year 96,790.
Right.
Year-to-date, we're at 33,000, so we're only about a third through January. So there should be some cushion in that number.
Any other questions on gas and oil?
It's the same number both years.
Okay, let's pop down to contractual services.
They said it was different, I'm sorry.
Question there.
Yes.
Dale Basin Wetland Management. I'll be the first to admit I don't know anything about wetland management. Last year we budgeted 3,750. This year 11,450.
We have a burn scheduled
When was the last time we did a burn over there? Was
3 years ago.
Was it 3? Okay.
Where's that at?
When you do want to
67th Street and Dale.
Oh,
Dan, maybe you could just do a quick commercial. on the
Oh, I'm
burn,
sorry,
on
yeah,
What it's
and-
for and.
What that basically is, the city of Darien owns specific wetlands or native areas. In this specific case, this is a wetland area, and it's isolated between 67 to the north, 69 to the south, Dale Road and almost Crest Road, basically. So it's a large field, and there's a maintenance program. It looks like cattails, okay, is the bottom line. but that is a native slash wetland type of, low maintenance type of growth for that type of condition. Every year, they'll walk through there, they'll remove anything that's invasive, whether it be buckthorn, for example, or something else that could just carry those seeds downstream and further create further havoc down the stream and into the banks, for example. Overseeding any type of barren areas that may occur. Overseeding is also provided in there. It's been doing very well. The burns are something that basically it helps promote, takes care of all the decaying material in there, and it promotes new growth. That's really it in a nutshell.
Now, the wetlands, for example, over at Walmart, when I moved in nearly 40 years ago, they used to burn that every 3 years, and then they quit doing that.
They haven't probably done a burn there.
I mean, who mandates or reviews that to see if a burn should be done?
The property owner.
Just the property owner, it's not the
That's-
county or anybody that,
No, there's,
the city that comes in and tells them they need to do a burn?
if
Because
there
that's in
was,
desperate need of a burn.
what opinion creates that necessary burn?
Yeah.
Is there evasive?
I mean, I don't know if it's even been looked at to see if it,
We
warrants a
monitor it.
burn.
I mean, I'll go past there sometime and, again, I'm not doing a real
I
detail,
walk by it
a high
every
level.
2 days.
Well, if there's invasive species in there that could be identified, the problem is it's so isolated and out of the beaten path
Right?
that it's not really it's not visible. If it's almost out of mind, out of sight, forget about it. And I hate to say it that way, but,
Except it collects a bunch of garbage.
well, the garbage has been picked up. Besides the garbage,
There's two major tractor tires that have been back there for 4 years now, that have never been moved.
and
So,
I
I mean,
don't,
it's still, but, years ago, it used to be burned every 3 years. I don't know why things would have changed that much that now we never burn it at all.
I haven't seen it burn since I've been here
I know.
since. It's up to them. It's entirely up to them.
Okay.
Do we promote it? The answer is yes. On our website, we promote it as
Right.
well, as part of stormwater management. There's several of them throughout town. Terra Hill, for example, we manage it on
That's a
behalf of the.
special service,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
We
It's a
manage
different
that.
kind of way it's managed.
Correct. There's another one that the city manages right across the street on behalf of the residents there.
I know we did that one at Fairview and 75th Street last weekend.
That's
There was a burn done there.
The park
the Park District,
Yeah.
right? And again, that's good management. It's good, it's good management is what it
That's the
boils down
Park
to.
District's property.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
Oh, I
And again, who initiate, was that something with the school, the agreement with the school, or is that all Park District property there? Again, we weren't notified of it, so I can't tell you.
Because I
what
get
and why.
residents asking all the time, when they gonna do a burn, when they gonna do a burn?
We've tried in the past to contact Walmart corporate. And when you and I have this discussion with the managers,
I know.
I'll be surprised if it goes somewhere.
Oh, I guarantee you that it won't.
And again, if there's some violations out there, we'll bring them to court. Even that process, it would have to be the owner.
Yep. Okay.
Well, I think the lesson learned is there's wetlands that are, managed by the city, and then there's wetlands that are individually owned by property owners or other entities like the Park District.
Correct.
So that kind of, the maintenance and burns and all that are,
But there's nobody that forces anybody to have to
No,
do a
at the
burn.
when those wetlands are first established, typically there's a 3 to 5 year maintenance program. By year 10, if they don't maintain them, they become what they become. But we still, we still look for evasive materials, we get evasive plantings, if that happens, and/or any type of scouring, and/or barren areas that can create erosion factors.
Okay. All right, we can talk offline on that one.
thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions there's kind of, like our prior conversation about the scanners and the new equipment related licenses. This is similar, but it's related to Public Works building, correct, Dan? When you look down, with the laser scanning and all of that.
Correct. This is part of, on this, let's see, let me start, Infomap, Laserfish Municipal Services. So,
Oh, sure.
again, this is taking the space at Regina's location upstairs outside of my office, including my office. And in this particular case, what we'll be doing is taking all those records, which we started boxing up at this point. And again, if this doesn't get approved, it's not a useless effort. We have contracts in there, we have work orders in there dated back from 1975. Okay, a lot of it is just paper that's taking up space. There are some important documents that we need to keep on there per the actual state, whether they be contracts, agreements, so on and so forth. Same process here, that we would take all this information that we have, get rid of those file cabinets, and store the information on a cloud-based type of service. In addition to, currently, we have what we call an M drive. That M drive basically consists of every single purchase and contract that we do on an annual basis. All that information would now be taken to the cloud, and anytime we want to document, especially a contract, that we can pull it down and reference it rather quickly. Whereas now, a little bit cumbersome, yes, but same concept here.
Questions to Dan about that premise and all that's involved with that?
And like you said in the other one, the only reoccurring costs are going to be the annual licenses.
That is correct.
Everything else is a one-time cost.
Yes. And I do have a further breakdown, and I do, that breakdown basically includes projects 1 and 2, which were referred back to the earlier version of the building department, as well as for our department, Public Works.
Anything else on contractual services? You want to turn to page 69? We've got janitorial services. Then we'll go back to contractual services continued. Forestry.
I had
Yes.
I had a question on one item there. About halfway down, City Hall complex mulch areas in the discretionary, 8,300. We had that in last year's budget too. Did we just not do it last year, or it's something that was recurring?
Which one, Mike? The
City
83?
Hall complex.
8,300.
8,300 last
City Hall.
About halfway down.
Yeah, last year we had 8,300. This year we have another 8,300. About halfway down.
Mike, I'm not sure what your question is. You're saying that it was in last year's budget, or it wasn't?
It was.
We had it in
Yeah,
last
for
year's budget
$8,300.
for the same amount, and it's in there this year also.
Did we use it?
Oh, the answer is yes.
Yes, what?
We did use it. Well, what are you asking? What
So-
is it?
So are we going to do it again this year?
Yes,
So every year we mulch and do this?
yes.
So then why is it in discretionary as opposed to
The
maintenance?
whole program is in discretionary.
Got it.
Because of the pricing
Okay.
that we had, if you recall. All right, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I know it's probably too early to tell, but do we know how everything kind of held up over the winter with all these plantings that we did do? 'Cause
75th, respect.
yeah, I mean, we had to do, because I know you put up the plastic to protect it, but do we know, like, how those things actually fared?
I don't know yet. We're gonna know, but we have a guarantee on that, number one. And that was the goal of it, to have that fabric up, especially the first year, until it got
Get it good
established.
started.
Right, to get it, again, to protect it at whatever.
Right.
Whatever potential
And I'm just
we
curious to
had.
see how that stuff held up.
Oh, yeah.
Is it gonna, is it gonna have to be replaced?
I think-
What,
If it's replacements, everything is under warranty.
no, but could they say, well, you didn't protect it properly and?
Right, that's why,
All this-
we've got pictures. I told the guys, take pictures for warranty issues. Most of the plantings were all through Hinsdale Nurseries in this case. Hinsdale Nurseries is very reputable. The vendor,
So when's like the make or break, when you kind of look at this and know that it did okay, it survived the winter?
unfortunately, I'm not that much of a green thumb, but we're gonna have somebody in here between our arborists, and we're gonna actually contact somebody from the garden club to help assist us with that. And we have a very knowledgeable landscaper through JC Landscaping. He's very knowledgeable on plantings. As a matter of fact, he just got one of the other contracts that we just released.
Okay.
Well, I would think the silt fencing would have definitely made a difference.
I agree.
And the lack of weather so far.
Correct, correct.
That's the
Mild winter.
biggest thing.
Yep.
Would.
Any more questions on the list of fertilizations, plantings?
And that's all paid by the city and not the county, right?
To your point again,
Know
yes.
the answer to that.
I know, I asked it anyway.
The
Someday that may change.
county does reimburse us for the mowing that we do, and I think they just
Yeah,
gave us a check
that-
for about $50,000 for the mowing that we do on 75th.
You learned in law school, didn't you? An attorney never asks a question he doesn't already have the answer to, right?
That's true. That's true.
But Dan, when it says 75th Street median planning updates, so what's that referred to? Updates?
Second from the bottom under contractual services.
For 15,000.
Gotta ask.
All that.
Is it replacements, or do you plan to do more stuff?
Well, last year we budgeted 135 for it.
Right.
That's
Little increase.
No, it's like, no, actually, it's a decrease.
Oh, these are the entrance signs plantings, okay?
It would be page 126 under the summary descriptions. Says the goal is to
Correct.
fill the bare spots in the planting beds with plants, flowers that will provide color.
So really, it's a contingency. We just planted things there last year. There could be some barren spots, so we want to basically go in there. We were on a lower budget, so we took what we could to put in there, and if there was any residual or opportunity for more, we'd be doing that.
So in the budget, should it say planting updates entrance signs
Yeah, I'm
versus
not
75th Street?
Yeah, it's kind of a,
Yeah, I'm not sure what
Okay.
happened there. Yeah, it's.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause on our backup sheet, it's correct. On the
Yeah,
budget, it
okay.
just must have been overlooked.
So per page 126, it should say entrance signs, planting updates. And it's a contingency. Okay? And then the entrance sign lighting is a carryover.
That is correct.
Any more discussions on these items under account 30-4350? Okay. Next up, streetlight operations and maintenance. We have a discretionary amount of $20,000, so it's a pretty big increase for streetlight requests.
How many do we have in here?
4 to 5.
Are they all in Eric's ward?
Pretty much. I got one.
The county doesn't
I got
reimburse
one
Streetlight
that-
man, we're
I
gonna
got
call him
one
the
that-
streetlight
I got
man.
one that needs
It's gonna be our new nickname.
I got one that they want to tear down, so you can get that one back.
Honestly, that's a good question, though. Can you move it?
We move it?
Well, like,
Well,
if
I
someone
guess-
wants it removed, can you literally, like, repurpose it?
Yes.
yeah, why not?
Okay, that's,
The concrete poles, I'll be a little more cautious on that answer.
Yeah.
Aluminum poles, the answer is yes. But you still need typically a new foundation base regardless of what, especially on aluminum poles.
so we know there's a process to request to have a streetlight put in. You can ask to have a streetlight taken out? If, like, collectively, everyone's like, get rid of it?
Well, we need to, that was something that we'd have to create a policy because what one person wants doesn't
Yeah.
mean the other one's
Right.
wants.
Well, it was put
That's
there for a
correct.
reason in the first place.
Right, there's a spacing methodology to it.
Okay.
It's no different than a fire hydrant. Some people don't like
Yeah.
fire hydrants in
No,
front of their houses.
Yeah, it'll save your house, though, in a bad moment.
There's a good point and a bad point. You know, one thing I want to stress is the way we have the light policy, the street light policy is
It's a good policy.
that residents need to basically be adjacent to where they're requesting it. We've had a couple incidences where residents in mid-block have requested it for another area. While we
Right.
go and vet the
Yeah.
purpose and get the petitioners to sign,
Yep.
it becomes mass chaos. and it really doesn't work. So our internal policy is that the resident that requests it, whether it's through an elected official, that resident must be adjacent to that light, not down the block, not down the corner. Again, I think this year was a anomaly for that.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily have to have the light in front of the house in order to be purposeful, right? So even though,
Across stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, it could be across, again, let's say that
Oh, yeah.
the four of you,
Across the street.
live next to each other, across the street.
Yep, kitty corner.
All right, we got
God
discount
forbid.
Mike. Mike's
right, the
Mike's got a for sale sign up already.
it better have my name on it.
Yeah, Dan, but it doesn't help when he put the wrong pole in the wrong
Well,
height.
you're right, to your point, but that was a whole different
Turns
That was a
situation.
whole-
We had, again, that was,
Drama.
right, so, but anyway, back to the situation. If you four are all in agreement,
Yep.
great. If one of the four isn't in agreement with the lights, we're not gonna put it up.
Well, in this case, the person approved it and then didn't like it after the fact,
Remorse, light remorse.
even though they're in the process of moving.
Wait till they move.
Oh, wait, yeah, exactly. Let's just take our slow time.
So,
Okay.
you know, again, and we have, we respect people's decision, residents' decision. They were there before the light bulb went off, but before the street light was there.
Dan, did you start a policy where the husband and wife have to agree?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I've had that issue.
Only because Dan's got a 1-minute story.
this is a 1-minute story. We had a situation where light went in, everyone signed the petition. The husband, in this case, signed the petition.
That's trouble.
Well, that was the first
With a
mistake.
capital T.
After the light goes in, 2 days later, we get a call from the missus.
Oh, boy. There we go.
Who authorized
Missus.
this light? I tell him, your husband. Well,
The guy's sleeping on the couch tonight.
There are
Thanks for
divorce papers
playing.
next?
Yeah, but it was also the wrong light.
it was too high. From that point,
They put in a
yes.
light that should have been like on 55. It was so tall and shiny. I mean,
But away
I'm
from-
calling
right,
Dan. I'm like, Dan, it's the wrong light. And he went out there finally. He's like, oh yeah, it's the wrong light. I mean, I still got the pictures on my phone. It was the wrong light.
Aside from that, this was
Okay.
a classic.
So now is the policy the homeowner,
It
whoever's
was
like
done right
on
before I
the,
became.
The homeowner, if
the
the-
property owner signs a petition?
Correct. It's always the property owner.
Because you
If
could
the
have someone
husband-
renting being like, I want
Clearly
a
the
light.
wrong
and
light.
then-
Yeah, no.
It's always
Yeah,
the
it's gotta be
property
property
owner.
owner.
And the husband, we don't put in there that we mandate both parties. need to
Spousal,
know- right,
support. Mhm.
Spousal consent, yeah.
Okay, boy, I had no idea the drama. We should do a reality TV show about streetlights. But speaking of streetlights, everything got caught up with the repairs and maintenance because I know there was a backlog.
Matter of fact, I'm very happy with the repairs. The warranty has also been very responsive. We keep on getting replacement boards out of the inventory that we've recently authorized through the city council. I think we've used 4 or 6. So I'm very happy with the turnout. We're caught up. The new contract, we had a reconciling with our current vendor. He did get the contract for next year. He's been very responsive, and especially with follow-ups where we had some concerns earlier.
Dan,
Including
we
the
have
warrant.
some that just weren't even lasting. They were going out.
Yeah, it was not, they're still going out on a weekly basis. Again, I think it's about probably close to 5 per week that are going out, but they're repaired within that week.
Good.
Dan,
Okay.
did we ever get the one on Chapman Drive replaced?
Yes.
Okay.
Concrete pole, yes.
Yeah, okay, that was disintegrating. Cool,
Yes.
thank you.
Anything else on streetlights?
Can I just ask what the difference between light pole repairs and streetlight R&R is?
No.
Okay.
Thanks for buying.
Rest and relaxation, right underneath the light, right?
I'm sorry, light pole repairs are under, for power, 72,000, that's the energy
Right,
cost.
and R&R is 0 now, right?
Right.
And last year it was 32 for
I
one and
combined
42 for the, combined them.
Yeah, it doesn't make any
So
sense,
it
because
doesn't really- okay.
you got electric, and the electric is, well, okay, breaking that out is really incidental.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. Okay, mosquito abatement.
What was the program last year?
Same.
2.5, same.
But I mean, what were we doing? Were we spraying? Were we
Pellets,
treating lakes?
treating lakes, open water areas, stormwater.
Put it in the
inlets.
sewers, right?
Yes.
They treated a sewer.
Yeah, they'll ride a bike around, look like a guy, if you remember when they had paper routes, paper bags years ago, it's a guy riding a bike around, dropping pellets in there.
I
into
don't
the
think
storm
we've
sewers.
sprayed,
High tech.
I've been here.
I don't think we did.
We haven't sprayed in
Yeah.
22 years that I've been here, and I
Give
don't
them
think
those-
it's
we don't
for
spray.
that.
I'm sorry, Eric?
The aerial spray. We don't do it the truck.
No,
to do
the,
it.
Forest Preserve, I think, did it 2 years ago, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Street sweeping.
This is my favorite too. I've got, as you know, Dan, that one resident in my ward wrote us that book
Correct.
regarding how we should be, first of all, the October 26th and November
Yeah, we only went
16th,
up a
that
little
number's pretty much double. Is that because of the leaves?
It's still the same, oh, you mean from, the other two? Yes,
Right.
the answer is yes. It's
Okay.
always an ongoing, and it's obviously more sweepers are in. And back to Eric, for the entire city council, there was a resident that requested of us to increase the sweeping to 4 times a year.
Right.
We will do spot maintenance depending on what the condition is. We do have a provision in the contract as well as a contingency, as you see in here. I'm not in favor of doing an additional sweep unless the city council feels that we do need to do that. We think we cut that at the fourth sweep out about 7 years ago now, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, can the third one be moved to later to try to get more when all the leaves are down?
No. Do you mean the October 26th or November
Yeah.
16th? When you say later,
I think there's still quite a few leaves. I know I had a few trees that the leaves didn't come down to the very end of November.
It seemed
and we
late
come
this
back,
year. Yeah, it
and
seemed
we
very
come
late this
back in
year,
there and
yeah.
we'll spot, we'll spot clean those. The problem is as soon as that mid-November hits, we're in for frost
Yeah.
and/or possibly snow.
Yeah.
So again, we try to time it. We don't want to be throwing the leaves back on people's properties. Joe?
Any more questions on street sweeping? Okay, let's get the party started with drainage projects. Okay, 30-4374, still on page 69. Questions on the rear yard, the city costs, miscellaneous, the Wilmette storm sewer, Darien
Yes.
Lane?
Alderman Sullivan, I'd like to just make one mention. Recently, I was out with Alderman Legansky, and on Farmingdale Drive, there's a block area where he's got some concern from constituents in regards to flooding on the block. And this is similar to what we have for the, up on Dawn Lane. Regardless of that, I have not put a quote together, but I'm thinking it's going to be in the $75,000, $90,000 range. I'd like to have the opportunity to bring that back. And again, this has been ongoing where it creates hazards. Let me step back a minute. The backyards basically slope from the back to the front. The entire block there lacks storm sewers. So what happens is that this water travels within this one block area and takes routes through side yards and across sidewalks to where the sidewalks ice up in the winter. Now, I can tell you that we have, over the years, probably put a barricade or two on Farmingdale Drive. A resident will call and say the road is icy. The reason that we haven't gotten proactive on that, typically we want residents to call. In conversation with Alderman Legansky, the residents have recently come back to him and said, hey, can you guys do anything about this? Whereas, we're not trying, we initiate when there's concerns of icing in the roadway, and there's a lot of pockets, or not a lot, there's areas of the town where ice is gonna form naturally just due to the elevations, and again, that's short-lived, but this is something that I think, is a worthwhile project, and unfortunately,
It's a real
it just came to light as Jerry was talking to me, hey, do we have any programs? And I go, yeah, we do have programs, just to this point. So again, if I may, I want to try to get this figure tomorrow, put a cost estimate to it. I just have not had the
But
opportunity.
where it accumulates in the middle of the block.
Correct, that's
Right,
a
but
flooding
right now,
issue.
But is the sewers there adequate to take what even comes there?
It'll take it. The problem is that there's not enough storm sewers, and with the larger pipe that we put in there, I think it's a 12-inch pipe at this point, is what my guys have told me, to increase it to a 15 or 18-inch pipe. We're not increasing any more flow, we're creating additional storage, because where all that water goes, once it starts backing up, it's gonna back up into the pipes. It's not gonna get there any faster or slower, we're just creating more volume for it to be stored in on a temporary basis, and that flooding basically is short-lived. Again, it's, this is almost a Regency Grove, Aylesworth type of project. It's short-lived to the point where you get intense rain events, 75-year rain events, half hour, 40 minutes at best, it'll go down. So this is really a rear yard drainage project in reverse that it needs to get put in the street because you can't put it in the back.
And is the theory that it's gotten worse, or just it's been not
It's
addressed?
ongoing, yeah, not addressed.
I don't think it has been addressed.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying you'd like to come back to council at the next meeting, or at the, follow-up when we're tying up loose ends, to potentially add this to
Yes.
the drainage projects for 2025?
Yes, I'll have a cost estimate tomorrow. I need a couple more figures, and I'll have all that in place.
Okay.
Thank you.
And now we're down to 2 rear yard drainage.
Beautiful.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Well, we had.
How many years were we
Like
were-
25, right? We were
Oh,
betting
really?
out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even in my
We've
6
had
years,
a
it's
lot.
been,
Yeah.
2 years ago, when we basically said we're going to, the city council agreed to, I believe it was 150, 175,000. We got a lot done. Got a lot done.
That's great.
Well, we also have the ditch, the 27 and a half miles of ditch projects
You're done
done.
with
So,
that,
yeah, 7, yeah.
Right.
bravo. Any other questions on drainage projects? And Dan will circle back with us on the Farmingdale Drive one. Okay, turn to page 70, tree trimming. Wowza.
Now, what are we doing with the ash trees?
Nothing. Monitoring.
Okay, just monitoring.
We're still treating them, though.
No, not at this point, no. We've, to our, credit to our bad arborists, we've, no, we've been monitoring them, in conjunction with the Morton Arboretum, as well as the Michigan State University. They've been the leading agency on protocols, if you want to say. We're very satisfied with the turnout, and there's no recommendation at this time for any type of additional treatment.
Dan,
See communities that like literally, my sister's community, south of here, that like literally just tore them all
Oh, yeah.
down. And like, I have 2 on my property, and they're doing just fine.
Yeah, it was a big risk.
And they're very
that-
mature.
It was a big risk we took to go ahead and, start a preventive maintenance program, and it worked.
We chased good money after good on that.
That was, yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, because how many trees did we save in the end?
1,700.
Wow.
Which, if we had to
1750.
plant them,
They were, they would not have the maturity in most of our lifetimes.
That was with the bad arborists, too.
Yep.
But the one on my property gets infested with spiders every year. And then my daughter parks underneath, and the inside of her car gets full of spiders.
I think we need
Oh,
a,
stop
I
it,
think we need a
stop it,
spider.
Stop it.
What are you gonna do about that?
I had our bad arborist out there. And he just shook his head.
Poor
He couldn't
John.
believe how bad
Poor
it was.
John.
I'm sorry, is that still an issue, Eric, or?
It was last year. The last 3 years has been that way.
You can't do
I'll
anything
check it again.
spray-wise
I'm
for the
sorry.
spiders?
What was our recommendation?
Kill the spiders.
Wait till winter.
Park someplace else?
Yeah.
Park somewhere else.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Gosh.
Oh my. In the
I'll let
car?
you know.
Not just on the car, but in the car?
An activist group out there.
Oh my.
There you go, Joe.
Oh,
man.
Tiny little,
Ouch.
Oh, stop it. Okay, I might drone going by your house. Okay.
don't park under them.
Okay, any other questions? I know I see signs up in my neck of the neighborhood here. They got tree trimming out. I
Yep.
haven't seen them.
That doesn't mean they're not somewhere in your
Okay.
area.
Okay.
We try to be proactive in putting signs out, so residents have a very good heads up.
They're usually on about January, aren't they, typically with the tree trimming?
Correct. We had some concerns earlier this year with the vendor, new vendor. To date, we had a reconciling once again, and it's been a very good.
Okay.
So is this throughout the whole city?
No.
Eventually,
No, they
I
do
mean,
zones. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
matter
what
of
zone
fact,
is, yeah,
once we get into this, our recommendation is to play catch-up. If you recall during the COVID,
Yeah, we
we had
suspended
eliminated.
it.
because we had a couple instances in my ward that it clearly needed to get done. I mean, one was obstructing by a sign, by a stop sign. I mean, it was just so overgrown,
And
it had
there's-
to be trimmed, yeah.
Right,
it
and there's
was a
situations that
hazard.
we do address
It was emergency, it had to
from
get done.
safety, yes.
Another tree was just, it was
Yeah,
just
and
dead.
we do tree trimming
I
like
have my
we
own
do
chainsaw.
streets. We do so many a year. and
Yeah, there's
we-
a whole schedule.
There's a
Yes.
whole schedule. What, if you didn't get done this year, you could be done next year, correct?
I thought it was
Based
every
on the
3
zone,
years.
we will finish the zone, we estimate, it's pretty well divided out, and going by memory, I think we're at 1,800 trees per section, and there's 5 sections, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so over 5 years, you'll get the whole city done.
Correct, but now, we need to play catch-up here and now, let's see, I'm not sure where we're at with,
We skipped 1 or 2 years.
actually, 34,
Just one?
I'm sorry, Mayor, 30, 43, 75, if you look at the 1750 trees, if you look at, we have a maintenance and we have a discretionary in the amount of 119, 560. Okay, and I may have gone too far ahead, Mayor, I'm sorry. Is that where did you want to?
No, I was just, I think the question was, we skipped a year of tree trimming during COVID.
Correct.
And what's the cycle? Like every 5 years, you're meant to be trimmed?
Every year, there's a schedule, and it's based on a 5-year rotating
Okay.
schedule.
Okay.
But if you do 2 this year, then you're going to be a year ahead when you recycle through there.
Again,
So
there's
shouldn't we just stay on that same cycle?
Mike, there's no good answers on that because we're noticing the overgrowth of the trees that we didn't do during that
That's right.
COVID year, whether they're sagging,
Need to double
whether
up.
there's more dead in there. We wanted to play catch-up, and yes, there's gonna be that,
Didn't we do those the year after? Didn't we?
right, then we pushed everything forward. We pushed everything
Behind
forward,
them.
so in theory, we're still a year in arrears.
Right.
But if you do 2 years this year, then you're going to be doing those a year
Caught up.
sooner later on.
I mean, we can keep on going.
Might end up doing less trees,
can
Mike,
try to
too.
get
You might
caught
end
up
up
to
doing
it.
less
Right,
trees.
that's what I'm saying. It might be less trees from 1750, it might be 900, or taking 2 sections
And I like
and,
it, otherwise I'd rather put that in the ditch project.
what ditch project? We
Just
were done with
so- so
ditches.
That we were talking about before, move it from there to there.
Oh, we'll find something, Mike, I guarantee you. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay.
The surplus from this year.
Any more questions on trees? Okay. Capital purchases.
Ouch.
I need to, obviously, this has been a spot of mine for 2 or 3 years now, and I'm going to go off on my tangent on this one. Obviously, for the people that are at home, and obviously the people sitting in this room, we have 4 trucks that are all carryovers from before, okay? The question that I have, first question is, are we having any luck getting snowplow trucks, or is it just hope for the best and see what happens?
At this point, it's still sort of first come, first serve, and hope
Okay.
you can get them. Inventory that's available is still somewhat bleak at best.
This has been going on for 3 years now.
Oh, easily. We've got 1 truck we're waiting for 2 years almost now.
Now,
Supposed
I,
to be coming April.
okay, And I haven't looked at the other side. When do we go to police cars getting those replaced?
No,
No.
they're doing it now.
But at this point, right now, we don't think we're gonna get them this year, correct?
The police
But
cars?
you approved that,
Another
and
month.
it's, you know, it was a question if we're gonna get it April to May, but the chief was thinking of somewhere in there.
You think we're gonna get them?
There's
I haven't
like
talked to
7
him
of them
since
that's
then.
on, should be next month.
Okay, we're gonna get them, okay.
Yeah.
7
But-
of them, yeah.
So,
I think cars are a different story than trucks.
okay, that's,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm asking for, because I didn't
No,
delve into
the
it.
cars are coming.
Okay. But going back to this situation with those trucks, I'm just trying to figure out what we can do, okay? Because it's one of those situations, the best thing about the city of Darien that we've always done is we've always fixed the problem ahead of time. No matter what that problem has been, we've taken care of it. When it comes to these truck situations and the trucks end up dying, okay, and we can't get them replaced, we cannot control it. And I'm just at the point trying to figure out what we can turn around and do. You know, I'm throwing this out there as, you know, what can we do as a group? You know what I mean? So it's,
I mean, because for an example, it's like truck 110, you budgeted at 306 last year, it's up 320. So now we sit and wait, and that's $17,000.
Oh,
And
sure.
plus the
But
maintenance.
we're not waiting. I mean, we're just a victim of.
Right, but we've got no other choice but to
Right,
wait.
I mean, because like if you look at the descriptions, so many of them are carryovers. So we tried to do it, but we're at the mercy of the supply. I mean, and it's not just us, it's my own business is having that problem. Like you're ordering things and you're waiting a year for them to come. And as you wait, the price goes up and up and up.
It's all due to the manufacturers. It's not even the locals, you know, the middleman, if you want to say. In all of our cases, at least, all the price increases are coming from the manufacturer, whether it's Peterbilt, and we're going with Peterbilt. International at this point, we wouldn't touch another international again. And again, hopefully there's an international rep out there, and he could be more than happy to contact me.
But Dan, I think the council, in terms of what you can do, you've done it a few times, they've increased the schedule. We might have showed it in year
Right.
2, and the city council's, let's show it in year 1. So we did move some of those up in trying to.
I'm
do
very
what you're saying.
comfortable where we're at today. Is it gonna get better? I'd say so. Slowly, it's getting better. But these trucks that we have right now coming, you know, truck 110, we had to basically, that's the one we're obviously gonna get rid of it. Case in point was that the policy we have in place for replacement works, because 110 has just been, the expenses on there, have been nickel and diming us from, you know, we had to get, I think we had a $7,000 repair that we had to put that truck in service because we don't have a new truck.
That's what out there.
it's almost, you know, I asked the question, if it's the city of Darien, it's DePage County, it's the state of
You're biting
Illinois.
the call.
Yeah, it's all of us.
It's national.
It's all of us. And again, you know, the trade secrets with all these guys is, don't let your sources out, you know, let's see who, you know, who can get it first, more or less.
So anyway, I'm off my soap opera on that one.
I'm good, yeah, and again, I think the department is very happy with, the protocols established and where we're at today. If I saw a need, we will bring it back up like we have in the past.
Okay.
Mike, what did we spend on 30-48-15 last year?
Which one? Ford?
The capital purchases for equipment.
15.
I mean, I know we budgeted
We budgeted.
1.4 million roughly.
1,412,000, and currently it's at 442. About $1 million under, a little
Right.
less than $1 million under.
So even though the number looks really big this year, there's $1 million.
Yeah,
On the
oh, I mean,
table still.
I have no
Oh,
problem with
I know,
these
I'm
things,
just,
yeah.
Yeah.
for anyone else
Yeah,
listening
oh
out
yeah,
there.
right, exactly. No, very valid, Tom, because carry over. And as we carry over, the price goes up.
We've already approved them. I mean, it makes sense. We need
How
them.
much interest do we earn on that?
I'm sorry?
How much interest do we earn on the $1 million?
There you go.
Thanks, Tom, I
That's
appreciate
the way to
your
look
insight.
at it.
There's your cost of capital.
I only argue the other way.
Come on now, money man.
Money man.
Okay.
Savings.
Any other question on trucks? Everything except, we're gonna scoot down to the bottom about the Vector truck, but anything on the other equipment and other items
In the
above?
mixer you took out, I think you're.
Yeah, I'm sorry, one item was, I was just gonna say, the concrete mixer, take that out, it didn't meet the qualifications. It was put in there as a placeholder, and after the evaluation on it,
Concrete.
it doesn't need to be replaced.
But then we'll put it in the
25,000.
Three-year budget, yeah, 3 years, yes.
this year, okay.
Oh,
Okay, Mike, that's, how much is that?
25,000.
So
you're
equipment
just-
number
you're-
309?
You're just moving it, you said, right?
Take it out.
But yeah, we'll move it to probably year 2 or 3.
So it's the same number, it doesn't
matter.
go away.
It's not for this year. We said
There's
we
an
could save
interest
this
on
year.
it for the year.
Remember that
Point.
in the discussion coming up shortly.
Okay, all righty. Let's make a deal. Okay, so we're taking that out. Anything else on that? And then we'll scoot down to the last item in equipment. Okay, the VACCON Vector truck half to the water.
Tell us a
So
story.
we talked about the rental, because we've been renting.
Right.
So explain the rental and what we've been spending versus the purchasing.
Well, first of all, there's two different types of trucks out there. This particular case, this is a VACCON, the second one is a Vector. Two different companies, two different manufacturers, two different parts, engineering, so on and so forth. Aside from that, the department is really in need of a vehicle like this. Now, again, we looked at this several times over the last probably 5 years, 7 years. And unfortunately, the justification could never be there. Why? Our partners at the county in this case were very accommodating when we needed these trucks. Again, when we need them on emergency, they're not available, so on and so forth. Nice sunny day, they're available to a point. The rentals on these, there's two different rentals. Last year, or last 2 years, we had used rentals in larger amounts for the water meter program. It was a less destructive method, and the way it works is, I think everybody knows what a buffalo box is, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of times, when they're in the meter program, we had to make sure that every single B box in the city of Darien worked. Ground shifts, B boxes moved, whatever the case is. Typically, a backhoe comes in there, and when a backhoe comes in there, it has to drive on the lawn. Once it drives on the lawn, there's restoration there already. Now it has to create an excavation. A typical excavation is probably 10 feet by 10 feet, pending, and that's basically on a 4.5-foot dig. Go a little deeper, your angles of repose on the wall for safety compliance, OSHA compliance, have to be a little bigger. Many times we're taking out additional concrete slabs. So that becomes a restoration cost. What is that restoration cost? Again, I'd have to do a study on that and figure it out. But typical restoration is probably close to $2,500 by the time it's all said with hauling out unsuitables, coming in with topsoil, coming in with sod, watering, the manpower, overtime, so on and so forth. With a Vector truck, you now have the ability to basically, it's called an 8 to 10 inch diameter pipe. And this pipe can reach from the street to approximately 12 to 17 feet without entering the property or entering the parkway on the grass area and or sidewalk. If this buffalo box is literally next to the sidewalk, within 1 foot, let's call it, this machine has the opportunity to suck all that dirt out. We can unscrew the B box typically from on top without even entering a hole. Put a new box on there, screw it on, or there's some other ones called saddles, set it on there, put some stone back on there, and we're done. Now we have a patch that's basically, let's call it 5 foot by 5 foot at a worst case scenario. That's one example. The second example is, as part of this National Pollutant Discharge Effluent Systems, which is part of the stormwater program, we need to be better stewards of stormwater control, stormwater sedimentation. Every single inlet that you see specifically in the roadways, there's manholes, what they call manholes. there's catch basins, and there's inlets. So there's 3 different types of structures that are incorporated into roadways and into parkways. Yes, there's some in rear yards as well. Those rear yards basically flush out to the front from the catch basins. Those hold the sediments and everything else goes downstream. Well, those sediments, continue to build up. And again, whether it's topsoil, roadway debris, so on and so forth, as a good policy, we should be cleaning out those inlets on not annual basis, but throughout a section once a year. How much time is that? That's a lot of time. It's a lot of time because you have to go to every structure, you pull the lid off. At the same time, this is a jetter. It's got a jetter hose, whether it's 500 feet, 700 feet, whatever the case is that allows us to jet the pipe to make sure there's no deficiencies. And at the same time, we can camera it for further maintenance to determine what if there's any infrastructure concerns that need to be completed. This is similar to a ditch maintenance program, except now we're in the stormwater maintenance, and we need to be in that. The reason is that there's a lot of what they call culvert metal pipes that were installed since 1960s, 1950s, that are carriers of pipe. All of a sudden, they could collapse. We've seen the collapses through the ditch maintenance program. So this gives us an opportunity to inventory, TV, have a better plan, be good stewards of the environments, and be in better compliance with the stormwater permitting, which is part of DuPage County overall. In conjunction with that, this also, what we do during, especially now, starting now, we're currently renting it. That machine is out basically, I'll call it 4 days out of the week for the in advance of the road program. The road program, we have 5.2 miles this year. Every single roadway that we're doing is going to be inspected for, as it is every year, with limited capabilities. In this case now, if this machine was approved, we'd have the opportunity, as we're renting it right now, to go out and clean the inlets and inspect the pipe to make sure that when we surface or repave this roadway, that the infrastructure underground is in good condition. I mean, we've seen where, okay, you have a roadway that you've done, and IDOT is a perfect example of this. Well, they'll do a patch, not do the infrastructure on Frontage Road, and all of a sudden the infrastructure will collapse and there's large holes that are left over, the residue, if you want to say, of a program that wasn't done properly. Moving on to the water department end of it, water main breaks. And Alderman Legansky, I know that if you could champ this for us a little bit too here, we had a very bad water main breakout, 2 of them, as a matter of fact, on Portsmouth back to back. And in this particular case, we had to replace a valve too. The valve literally had a ComEd wire, and when we say wire, it's high voltage, obviously, they're big cables underneath the ground. Those cables, we were able to work next to that cable with the Vector, with a machine. Now, don't get me wrong, we still need backhoes out there. Can we limit backhoes in the future? I don't know if that question comes up. I don't know yet, but that's something we would also take a look at. Back to that case, the Vector had the opportunity to basically suck around this whole valve, and these valves are 12, basically 500 pounds, 400 pounds, depending on the size. And the old one's got to get cut out, the new one's got to get put back in there. There's a lot of bolts, and you need to have a hole that's safe. Well, this machine, because of the ComEd cable in this case, allowed us to do it in a more efficient manner. And Jerry, and I appreciate if you could add a comment, because I think you were out there on that one.
Yeah, I went to see it. Yeah. I mean, unbeknownst to me, we had a very big water break on our street, and so they shut down the entire subdivision. I mean, at least Farmingdale, I think.
Oh, yeah, it was
I mean,
the majority of the subdivision.
everybody had to
yes.
get shut off because it wasn't just your main water break, and they had to replace that valve. So I saw it in use. I just happened to be home and walked down there and saw it. So, and that valve wasn't working. That's why they had to replace that valve. So, I mean, it was impressive. I mean, I could see, like they said, if there's other utilities down there, it's a lot safer than going with a backhoe and trying to dig and interrupting any other utilities that are down there. That's why I asked at the council meeting on Tuesday night, are we using this thing
Sure.
You know, because how many valves, like, in the city are on schedule to be replaced? Because I think the gentleman, Dennis, told me that there are so many that, like that one on Portsmouth was supposed to be replaced eventually anyway,
Yes.
but because we had that break a little bit further up on Farmingdale, they did it at the same time, which made a lot of sense.
Right, Chris and I talked about it, exactly.
So how many more valves, like, do you know are on this schedule?
I want to say 455, again, going by memory. I want to make sure I don't give you an inaccurate number. But to the point, we do have, this year or last year, we bought the valve exercise. And the problem with valves is, and I'll digress for a quick second here, valves that are made today in comparison to when they were made years ago, years ago they were steel, two different metals, steel to steel basically. Today there's rubber to steel, which gives it a better seating. Not that they don't go bad, the chances of them going bad over 25, 30 years are a lot less than the steel to steel. When we can't get good shutoffs, keep in mind that we're dealing with 10, 12-inch water mains, 6-inch at the bare minimal. There's anywhere from 50 to 70 pounds of water, of pressure, that's coming out of there. Now, you try working with picture of water faucet at home, and you're trying to stop that. And this is a larger volume, more concentrated pressure. You know, you need to have those valves working. So, as I digress, these machines, and especially with the infrastructure, how loaded it's getting from Nicor Gas Services, Nicor Gas Mains, Nicor, there's what they call MOP lines, which are large lines. Route 83, for example, we have petroleum pipelines. We had a major water main break there earlier this year. We were basically on there for 10, 12 hours on that one. Clare Hills Road, you know, there's infrastructure now, and especially on Clare Hills Road. Recently, there's optic fiber cable that was installed on Clare Hills Road 3 years ago, and that goes from point A to Argonne National Laboratory. There's schools that have these fiber optic cables that go from one school to the other school, so on and so forth. But there's so much infrastructure that's being put in the ground, and it's still ongoing. You know, Comcast, AT&T, this new small cell that's starting to develop. What's the extent of that? We don't know yet. So that's my...
Yeah, and even in that case, because Portsmouth is so much lower, all that water that's like further north on farming, I mean, the amount of water coming through there was insane. All that water that was coming back down that they had to, when they were replacing that valve. But on that equipment too, I know they had the jetters you're talking about, but we have that now somewhere, right? I know, like, doesn't the county do that for us now? Because I know they did that in my neighborhood this past year.
County, they do sanitary sewers, okay? We don't have control of when we need a machine. Again, you know, with the guys over the, you know.
Oh, you're saying it's only for stormwater, not for sanitary?
No, we won't, yeah.
Got it.
Right, there's two
Okay.
different departments altogether, and obviously they're in that entity, we're in this entity. So it's, number one, it's a multi-purpose machine. We become better stewards at what we're supposed to be doing.
I mean, and the hole it created, it is pretty small. I mean, it's hard to believe it can be that direct and.
Oh, it is. And those machines have come a long way. You know, 5, 7 years ago, the maintenance costs were very high on them.
Well, that's my point. But even like on the 500,000, I mean, you know, you got depreciation every year. You've got, you know, the cost of that capital. I mean, what kind of maintenance do you see? I mean, because do you see on a machine like that? I mean, now you're leasing it. There's no expense for repairs
There is still an expense. Whatever breaks on that machine while it's a lease, we're responsible
liable?
for it. Yes,
Okay.
and it happened. I think last year. I forgot if we had a 4,000, whatever the expense was, but we did have an expense that's, again, fault of ours or not. It's you know, leaser takes.
So now because that piece of equipment helps when you have other ComEd utilities and things like that. What's been the history of when we've used backhoes and have damaged that stuff? I mean, is it common?
The common, yes. Is it dangerous? Yes.
Oh, no, it's
Have we done
dangerous,
it?
but I mean,
Yes.
does it happen a lot throughout the year where this could eliminate that too?
I'd say one, oh yeah, definitely. Once a year, we'll hit a power cable.
What does that cost the city then because we caused it?
You know, it's very, we try to subrogate it, and it could be up to $10,000. We just had a hit on Plainfield Road here with a fiber optic, as a matter of fact, in the contract. Lucy, I don't know if you recall what that one was. We had a claim against, was it 12,000, the one on Plainfield Road last year? I don't know if you remember. I know it was, if you don't, that's all right. But it was fairly expensive, and the only reason we got out of it is that it wasn't located. You know, we take pictures prior to a dig, otherwise we could be held, we're held responsible. Our vendors are held responsible for a rear yard drainage project if they hit ComEd cable, a telephone line.
So you're saying the cable that was hit or the optic that was hit was not identified, so?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were very fortunate in that case.
It helped us.
But that's, still, that's a big cost. And again, you know, we try not to do that. Mike, I see Mike itching there.
You ready for my?
No, not
No, I
yet.
had
That's-
something, Mike, before Mike goes, Dan. I think the council, because they have approved this, the rental, so I think the use of it, everybody would agree, it's really a good use. But I think you should just, again, so everybody understands, focus. So if you don't have it 6 months, you have it 12 months. What is that real benefit of the other 6 months? Now, I heard you say, one of the benefits is you really want to start a new program
Right.
and improve the maintenance on our stormwater drainage.
I think, yeah, exactly. You know, I think it's gonna help us as to be, again, more optimal, more efficient, better stewards of the environment, and that's something, being better stewards of the environment, that's something that we need to step up into now. You know, everyone, clean rivers, clean streams, that affects all of us, whether it's Sawmill Creek, you know, we have 3 branches basically in town.
I
So-
assume too, when you need these, it can be an emergency
Oh, it's-
situation. And what are your chances of actually getting it?
They're not, that's the problem. That's
I mean,
always
what
the problem.
happens if all of a sudden you can't get it?
And now we're stuck, you know, doing the traditional
The
way
old-
or, you know,
Yeah.
waiting. And many times you can't wait. On a water main break,
Right.
you can't wait. You end up digging twice the hole.
Yep,
Oh,
putting
no,
guys at risk.
Yeah, another example of this was right on Plainfield and Manning. We had a large water main break to where we had to open up and close down the roadway. We didn't have the machine then, you know, then county wasn't available, whatever the case was. But we had to open up a larger portion of the road, close down one lane. And luckily, there was 2 lanes of traffic in that one lane, one direction.
I know Mike's been waiting. Mike?
Yeah, I guess I just want to try and look at the big picture here. Because we've been renting it, and if we don't buy it, you've got like 4 months' worth of rental in there. And I don't know, you know better than I do, if we have had trouble getting them in the past. It doesn't seem like, because they've rented a pretty good dollar amount, so I think the people are pretty happy with renting them to us.
Yeah, if you get
Yeah,
it.
maybe you can't get it in the case of an immediate emergency, if
Right.
everybody, if there's been a tornado and
Whatever the case,
everything's
sure.
gone to heck in a handbasket
Yeah,
type
or
of thing. But
major thaw.
otherwise, if you were coming to me a year ago, I would have been more open to it, because we did have to get these Vector trucks to do our meter replacement, or to help with the meter replacement. I had Julie run some numbers for me, and in fiscal year 21-22, we only spent about $48,000 by leasing the Vector trucks. Last year was $101,000, again, because of the meter program, which would have made more sense, I think, if we really needed it, to get it at that point than now. And now this year it was $12,000 before we had the expenses last night, so it might be $50,000 or $60,000 for this year. But even if we're looking at a $50,000 or $60,000 a year expense to go out and buy it, it's going to cost us $500,000 that we're earning 5% on. That's $25,000 that we're earning in interest, so that does offset that. So the net out of pocket is $35,000. But then, as Jerry was indicating, you got wear and tear, you got at least depreciation, aside from whatever maintenance there might be on it. So I guess I'm just
Okay.
having trouble justifying it now. I would have rather seen a year ago or a year
Was the time
and a
to
half
buy it,
ago or
yeah.
so, say, hey, we could save $100,000 here. That's going to go a long way toward paying for it. Now it's just, yeah, it's nice. We want to be a steward of the environment and everything, which, yeah, I think we all want to do. But it's hard to quantify that for taxpayers. Say, what do you want to pay to be a steward of the environment, and what does that really mean? That's where I'm struggling with it, but just again, throwing out some numbers and.
So,
Oh, Mike, just a rebuttal on the first year that we rented it. I did not, while we budgeted a figure for the Buffalo Box program, I'll call it the meter program, we really didn't know what was going to be happening to these B boxes until we really got in the middle of an operation. You know, one day they would work, next day they don't work, and again, that's not for all of them. But we looked at it, we need to be more efficient, our restoration cost is gonna be out of the roof otherwise, so, you know, I was not ready to bring it forth then.
Yeah, well, I don't condemn you for doing it. I think it was the right decision to do it, but I would have rather bought it
I
at that
understand.
point and.
I understand that.
Is there
point.
any way of capitalizing on renting via, IGA or to any other communities that might be needing it at the same time?
Sure, we could possibly do a Willowbrook. I mean, Willowbrook is smaller. They wouldn't be able to justify it. Downers Grove, I believe, has.
But we'd be able to get some capital back as a rental fee, right?
Sure, you know, there's
Shit to them.
a
Right.
schedule. There's a schedule of rates, whether it's
Because if we're having a hard time getting for over 4 months, they're probably having a hard time getting it for 4 months as well, I would think.
everybody that rents it. There's only two real players in town, and those rates are basically $1,200 per hour,
how long do you think this
Or
machine
14 a
lasts?
month.
10 to 12 years.
The other part of the discussion, and it's not really quantifiable dollar-wise, and I hate to even bring up the concept of a new public works facility, but here we are buying another $500,000 piece of equipment, and I assume we're gonna wanna store that inside, and we've always been saying, hey, we don't have room inside now for storing everything we're doing.
So this
Now
thing
we're
sits
adding
outside,
another piece
too.
to it.
So what's your point?
There we go.
What's your point, Mike? Get the
New building?
Thank
I
you.
think
Okay,
I
done.
think he just said you need,
Mike, you're
you
right.
need a
It
new
would, it would
building.
result in that vehicle inside, and then one of the vehicles probably,
Another one
or
being
two,
outside,
would have to be outside.
No,
right,
and
Dan?
again, we prioritize.
Truck 110.
Yeah, right.
We
Yeah.
prioritize
Keep the
the
110
vehicles
outside.
on sensitivity and, you know, what's the least amount of harm? That machine, I guarantee, is not gonna be kept outside.
So this company, are they the only game in town? I mean,
Here's the other catch-22. I had the guys recently do some research. Do research on the VACCON, the Vector, call different municipalities, see who has what. Majority of the municipalities have a Vector for basically better, I'll call it better engineering. The VACCON has a, there's a component in there, there's a fan and a, I'm thinking the terminology that was used.
Right, so are there other vendors where maybe
there's
they're
one
like
more,
the
but the
Cadillac, we
problem
can
is-
get by with the Chevy, you know? or
Problem
something,
is,
you know?
is I need to increase it by 50,000. From 500, I need to go from 500 to 550, unfortunately.
Okay, for the
Okay,
back.
and I will be getting a Vector versus a VACCON. This was the research that just came back to me. I just got the final quote. The 550 would be the max.
Is it new or used?
New. This
New.
one is brand new. We can't get a used Vector. The VACCON, and the reason for the VACCON, it's an impeller on there. If this impeller goes bad, and what we're gonna be using it for, the probability of this impeller going bad is very high than with the other type of fan system. And I'm not gonna get into the technical
Can they
part.
give us some kind of like a maintenance schedule, what they think it's-
10,000 a year.
That's what they
I
said,
think
10K
it's-
is in
I
there?
think it's in here.
Was it?
Yeah.
I missed that.
It's 10K a year, and that could be even lower because Vector has a program where our mechanic goes down and gets trained on the critical elements and procedures.
Oh, okay. So that's included in with the price?
And that's the EJ equipment, the in
We will
Mantino?
probably end up, again, if this gets consideration, moves forward, we're gonna probably go with the Vector, which is part of the suburban purchasing program. And majority of the municipalities around here, I've been told, have all Vectors, not VACCONs, for
Okay.
various reasons.
Yeah.
And Dan, you said, like, when you look at the last 12 months, not our I guess kind of our fiscal year, but how many months did you rent the the Vector truck?
In the past year, on a full calendar year, I want to say was probably 6 months. Mike, I think.
I think it's less, it's probably 5, and
Okay.
historically, it's been 4 to 5, and in the
thought it was
budget
like four,
for the
yeah.
rent, you've got 2 and 2, so typically 4 is what they were asking for. So that equated, 15,000 a month would equate to about $60,000 a year.
Correct.
Okay, and then you're saying if purchased and it being property of the city of Darien, that you would now make it utilize on a weekly, almost like daily basis?
Sure, almost on a daily basis. I'll say based on a 40-hour week, that we'd be using it at a minimal of 25 and up to 40 on a normal work week.
Wouldn't that like impact your staffing and your like scheduling, because now you're having people who should be doing something else doing this?
No, because they're already doing that. They're already inspecting, for example, the road maintenance program. They're already out there. Instead of using the truck that they use, they're now become more efficient. A water main break, for example, instead of going out there with additional machine,
Backhoe.
now they're using that machine. So there's an efficiency and optimization at the same time.
So a non-Vector repair is going to take longer?
A non-factor repair, if, again,
same-
if the one from the EJ, if this part went bad, it's about $35,000.
No, I'm sorry. I'm,
A water
what I
repair.
mean is, if you have a water main break and you don't have access to a Vector truck, what type of man hours are being spent, and what size is your crew for doing that repair compared to
And how
having
long
this
does it
truck?
take?
Double, number one, could be double. Could be 2 machines, 2 backhoes, depending on the size of the hole, depending on,
Right, but if we're looking for a quantitative way of saying this is going
Right.
to save us money, if you tell us instead of using 40 man hours to make this repair using a backhoe in our obsolete equipment, compared to using a Vector, we're going to save 20 work hours at whatever dollar per hour, every job would save a number.
I think, easily
Safer.
based on every job, it's gonna, every main break, 25%, I think is a very good indicator. And that 25% equates to labor, equates to restoration. And well, those are the 2 main factors, really.
Right.
And that's a lot of overtime, too.
And time, yeah.
And
time.
what about safety to the workers?
And so what is there a time element in so having the job done from beginning to end with this truck, from beginning to end with the other truck, they're done and on to something else quicker?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
And gee, I know it's hard to put a dollar amount on it, but Mike wants to hear one. So,
I look at it, based on if we go based on a rent, again,
Safety.
to rent it. is-
well, how many man hours do you think? And again, let's just do a typical. I know there's no typical
That's
repair
still,
of
that's
a.
still tough to do, though, because
Of course it's tough to
if
do.
it's their regular work hours, there's no additional man hours, because they're doing something anyway. The other time, say, if
Overtime.
it's overtime, now it's going to be additional hours.
Yeah.
True,
You're gonna have
but if they're
overtime.
doing something, again, you're paying someone 40 hours a week. If they're doing 5 projects for 40 hours a week instead of 3.5 projects because they're using this truck, it is a savings. At some
In
point.
addition to that, confined spaces, you could do a lot of the operations from up on top versus, right.
So there's a safety component.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Is there gases in these storm sewers?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's gases and everything that's underground.
When it gets down to it, it sounds like having this machine is going to eliminate some ancillary costs that we don't know about, but it's there and it's to the benefit of the city of
Oh,
Darien.
definitely. From a safety
Yeah.
standpoint,
But to
I
quantify
think
it,
I
but
would,
yeah.
yeah, I
I
would
think you're
champ the
right,
safety
yeah.
standpoint alone.
Yeah,
No.
that's-
Could,
Mayor,
so-
can I add, I'm
Yes.
sorry, this has been, for anybody that knows Dan and I, this has been a debate, and Dan's been requesting this vehicle for a long time, and I've been saying, no, I don't think we're ready for it.
Been requesting
And
it.
he sat down with Joe and I really was convinced now that we're ready for this piece of equipment. All the things we're talking about, safety and all that, that's inherent in there. But I think what sold me this year was a lot of the additional work, Dan, you could do primarily for storm sewer, because you're talking about environment and things, but it is drainage.
Oh, yeah.
the community's aging, the infrastructure's aging. I think we'll see more stormwater issues.
Yep.
You know, we've done ditches, we've done that, but there's a lot of pipes that we haven't done.
Oh, yeah.
So when you were meeting with Joe and I in this, I did feel this is the time to do it, because we do want to expand what we're doing as our infrastructure's aging.
Oh, yeah.
So you might not, so I wasn't even
Well,
comparing
yeah.
last year to this year. I was kind of comparing what you've done.
Yeah, what's the
where we
plan
need to
going
go.
forward for utilizing it? And so the one that we're renting now, is there a chance we could just buy that one from them? Would they?
Yeah, we could. That's the problem. We don't want it.
Yeah.
Why?
We don't want it
Because it's
because
the wrong
of the,
kind.
because of
It's the
because
wrong
of a
kind.
Oh, it
certain
is the wrong one. I'm sorry, I missed
yeah,
that.
because of a certain component, the way this one is built, it's subject to more failure,
This is
a
vacuum.
higher probability. So that's why I asked for 50,000, a budget of 550,000.
Yep. Okay.
Just last question, just have you, I know, I'm sure like Downers Grove has one of these and, you know, have you ever talked to another city? Or-
Yes, that's what we just did. I
That's
had the
why I
guys,
came up with
I told Chris to vet with all the municipalities around us, DuPage County, Woodridge. I want to say he did touch base with Downers Grove, but we know they have some, those were the three main ones within a week. And DuPage County, I think, has four of them, I understand. Woodridge,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they have
They
one
can
or
afford it because
two.
they aren't doing work for us.
I was waiting. I was waiting.
What's that?
Nothing.
So, yes, I mean, we did a thorough research in a very short amount of time and contacted a lot of people to make sure that I had the correct information to provide for you.
How fast can we get a truck?
Is there a 2-year, 3-year wait time
No,
on
you
that?
know, what's interesting with
Probably a week.
Vectors, they order them already. They probably had orders for 2-3 years, and they'll order Kenilworth and Peterbilt, is my understanding. And the engineers through Vectors spec out all the holes that they need in the cabs. So as soon as they get here, I think it's in Streeter is where they assemble them. But they assemble them all in Streeter, and they're ready to go within 2 months, believe it or not. Wow. So it's very,
Can they plow?
very unique.
Can they do a
Say,
110?
can you put a snow plow
Can
on
they
it?
plow?
Oh, because of the hoses on the front.
No,
It was the
suck the
first thing I
snow
thought
Suck
about
up
when
the
I heard
snow.
this. I'm like, oh,
You suck up the
Just suck
snow.
up the snow. There we go.
Yeah, blow it away with the water.
Any more questions on
Right.
the truck or any other equipment or anything else in the municipal services streets
Sure.
division?
Yes, yeah.
Okay? We're going to wrap that up, and Dan's going to come back to us with 2 items, the drainage costs for a potential project on Farmingdale Drive, and I guess maybe new backup for this Vector
Vector.
versus VACCON.
Yeah.
That's all I'm really asking for. Well, the backup is really immaterial. Most of the backup is there. The budget number needs to get increased to 550.
Okay.
And that'll be changed in the documents. Okay.
And can we see those referrals too? I mean, just from the others that are using it? Can we get some kind of?
Sure. Yeah, and then
I'm sure
there's-
they've done some
if-
kind of analysis on where it's maybe saved them money and time, I mean, something. I mean, if that's possible.
On some cases,
I don't
it's
know if they're
standard
gonna make it
operating
through
procedures,
capital
Jerry, and
projects.
again, you know, if we
Do
can't,
administration
we'd be
and
more than
save on
happy to
something.
entertain you
We'll
coming
take a
out there
5-minute
with
break
us,
and-
About a half hour
or,
to
you know,
do
meet.
Love to do
the-
it.
We can stay longer, too. I mean, okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Would people be willing to stay till 10 if we want to try to power through capital projects so we can finish up with Dan? Stay a little later?
I say go because you're not here. Let's
Yeah,
keep going.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's take 5 minutes to restroom, refreshments, and then we'll circle back. 5 minutes.
Yeah, I say we
Yeah.
plowing, yeah.
start back up again with the Capital Projects Fund, page 187. Supporting documents start on summary page 188. So in here, we have stormwater ditch projects, the landscape inlet, and the brick manhole rehabilitation. Any questions on that? There is supporting document on almost everything on this page. Following. Any questions on stormwater ditch projects? Okay, if not, moving on to sidewalk replacements. Obviously, we had a pretty big jump in fiscal year '24, a lot of sidewalk installments going on. And I know, Dan, you've talked about the concrete grinding,
Correct.
and we got sidewalk raising. Any questions on sidewalk replacements and I guess you could say maintenance?
Well, that's always been something I've brought up a lot, Dan, on being aggressive with the grinding, especially when I think there's times where, we've replaced a sidewalk that we just had, that we just replaced, 5 years ago. So, making sure that the criteria is being upheld in terms of, when it needs to be replaced. And I know you said you were going to change on the grinding to like.
The elevation?
Yeah,
Right.
just real quick recap. Mary, I'm sorry, what page are you on?
I'm
My
on page
computer's
188, 187, and 188.
shut. Let me get to that page.
'Cause remember you said with the grinding, we have really good data in terms of everything we've done. And I like data to know if you have to do it again and how much you've done, what you've accomplished, what's
Sure.
left. I mean, then just, okay, we just keep replacing. I like,
All
yeah.
right, let me kind of run through the program real quick. Obviously, there's 2 programs in play right now, and the budget number for the sidewalk replacement is basically identical to last year's. In addition to, I'm asking for additional monies for the actual grinding, okay? One of 2 scenarios. Number one is for the grinding, we don't have a full-fledged contract yet this year. I just got a price yesterday of an increase for the grinding. It's basically $44, whatever it was, $44 in comparison to what's in the book here, so I don't have that figure. Now, here's the issue. The issue, to Jerry's point, was that we have replaced concrete slabs over the years that have been basically done 4 years ago, 5 years ago, or even 7 years ago. Where and why? Where they've been around the actual trees themselves, the mature trees. Why? Because the roots of these trees in our area here don't have an opportunity to dig in. It's all clay. So as the water sits towards the top of the surface, the roots cling for the water. As they cling for the water, the roots get bigger, mature. They raise that sidewalk whether we put it in yesterday or 5 years ago. So from that perspective, we're doing double the work within a time that should not be occurring. The opportunity with the grinding is, and this year was the first year we did the pilot program with the grinding. It was all over in Alderman Belzak's ward. The contract was part of a joint co-op with 4 other municipalities. The criteria, based on the joint contract, was a ½ inch. Now, a ½ inch is nominal. From a safety perspective, 3/4, 1 inch is really the starting criteria of being somewhat responsible, if you want to say. I wanted to change the specification to 3/4 of an inch. I've been requesting information. There's only a couple vendors that do this. So the bottom line is that he finally got back to me, and I got to run the numbers again on how much this will get us based on 3/4 of an inch versus a ½ inch. That 1/4 inch is a lot when you walk through a subdivision and you see all the sidewalk. The great thing about the grinding is they can, when they identify it as they drive this vehicle down a 4-5 foot wide sidewalk, there's no damage, there's no restoration. The end result is that they GPS slab, the elevation of 4 corners, whether it's 1 slab or 4 corners of a 3 slab area that's vertical displacement, basically, or horizontal, from side to side, so on and so forth. So what the grinding does, it literally just grinds it, leaves a
Yeah.
rock finish.
Yeah.
We did not have any complaints. We did a good amount for what that $50,000 took us. We now need to take that $50,000 and work backwards based on the quarter of an inch that we're decreasing it by. The $50,000 didn't get us very far, and the reason that is because based on that contract, a half inch, we all know what that is. It could be almost every other slab within a block. Whereas 3/4 inch, okay, could it be in 1 inch next year? For that 1/4 inch, I'll take that risk, if you want to say.
Well, I sent you a picture of that one. I had a Woodridge resident that sent me an email asking if I can get involved in helping her get her sidewalk fixed. The way the city fixed it, they had a gap there, so it sunk down. They actually just put asphalt and pounded asphalt into the hole on the sidewalk, and that was the fix.
That to me is unacceptable.
Oh, I mean, it looked atrocious. I went over and looked at it. It was atrocious.
For a temporary patch, yes, I will agree.
And it
with
wasn't
that.
temporary.
Okay.
That was their permanent fix.
Again, I won't get into those comments, but again, I think the program that we have in place
Yeah.
has been very good. I think we need to move to a new level. Now, this grinding really has evolved in the last 5 years. So if somebody was to say,
Yeah.
would you do grinding?
Yep.
Whatever, 5 years ago, I probably would have said no.
Yeah.
The technology of the machinery and the expense and the dust that created, it's just evolved so far. The other methodology years ago was what they call slab jacking. There's a new methodology to that now too, but the slab jacking would not be economical for the city of Darien, popping all these holes in there throughout. So that's not even being considered.
The one question I did get from a resident, though, and they're just like I am, is in the driveway has sunk a little bit. So the curb, when you go over the curb, there's about that much of a short fall off
Right.
from the curb back down to the driveway. Is it the city open to cutting that down, or can residents do that themselves?
They could do it themselves, when we come in there, we'll review it. We don't practice that because now all of a sudden, you still have the saws that cut those curbs.
Yep.
Still leave a 3/4 inch lip.
It's water.
So you're never gonna get it flush
Yeah,
based on a saw cut, because these are, 5 foot, 6 foot saws that basically come in and slice it.
yeah.
So it's not what you and I would expect to be flush.
Okay.
But it could be
In
an
our
improvement.
case, it's
Yeah.
cheaper to.
Oh, yeah.
It's cheaper to remove and replace it because the curb is already somewhat deteriorated if that's the
Right,
case.
yeah. Well, it's just that the driveway itself is sunk down.
Sure.
Any more questions on sidewalk mismatch grinding?
Got a question
Yes,
there.
Mike.
Just in terms of this grinding, Dan, I'm just thinking out loud again, in terms of $275,000. Is this something that we could buy this piece of equipment?
No.
And now we're saving all this extra time with the Vector truck that we can have our people do? No.
No, it's a whole brand, I'd love to tell you, yeah.
No, I'm
But
just asking.
unfortunately,
It's a
yeah.
big number, so I don't know if.
And while it's a big number, my goal is the first round with the concrete program itself is to get through the road program sections. Then we're gonna hold off the vendor for the concrete program until October to come back for the miscellaneous $200,000 worth of sidewalk replacement. Meanwhile, I will have a contract in place prior to the other vendor coming back in October and grinding as much as I could based on the estimate that we could figure out and do a quick comparison, if you want to say. And there's going to be a savings between one or the other. Is it going to be 250,000? Probably not. Well, could it be 150,000? Yes.
I don't disagree with the concept.
I know,
I'm just
you're
wondering, why does it not make sense to try and get this piece of equipment? Is it a $1
Maintenance.
million piece of equipment? Is it what?
It's a maintenance, you only use it basically 2 months, 1 month out of the year at best.
And
We're not,
what's the cost of the equipment?
I don't know, I didn't take a look at that, I looked at it, it's a 1 month's worth of service, and, I mean, we can look at it, sure, I understand where you're coming from, but just didn't consider it.
Referring to buy him some equipment, and he's saying no? That should be your answer right
I don't know,
there.
I'm just picturing this sort of small thing that fits on a sidewalk that. I don't
It's
know.
got a water tank, I mean, it's a sophisticated piece of equipment, but nonetheless, yeah, let's take a look at it.
Okay, Dan's gonna
Know
look
your market.
into the purchase
Last quick
versus
question.
rental.
We're budgeting
Right.
10 times more
Grinding
for
equipment.
the grinding. Like, how much is that going to cover?
That's the part that I don't know yet for sure. It'll cover, I got the square footage of what we recently did. So I need,
But with the new criteria, it should be
should be
substantially
less,
more.
but they
Or-
increased.
right.
Yeah, it should be less, but they increased the square foot price for this year because Hard Rock was the company, they're not gonna honor an extension from the joint co-op. So,
But there'll be less sidewalks that fit the criteria.
correct, that's why there's two things in play.
Right.
Dan, you're gonna follow up on the grinding equipment and the possibility of purchasing if that would be
Yes.
feasible?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on sidewalk replacements? Okay, let's move on to curb and gutter program. Any questions on curb and gutter? Okay. That being said, there's nothing under economic incentive and bond payment. Moving on to capital improvements infrastructure.
Oh, boy.
Before we get to is there any questions on the first three items? Natural areas, 83rd Street, light, and Marquee Plainfield cast. That's the carryover. That's something that's already been approved. Is there any discussion on any of that?
Is the marquee under budget or at budget?
Yeah, I thought it was a lot less. I thought it was like 80. No?
160.
I'm sorry, for the carryover or where we at
No,
today?
no, we carried over 125. Is that going to be
Right.
sufficient to pay for?
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions on those three items? Okay. Next up, EV chargers, 3 units, $425,000.
Where are these chargers going to be at?
In a nutshell, basically what this is these are level 3 chargers. Okay, these level 3 chargers basically are gonna be installed, 2 here, 1 as soon as you pull into the, city hall on the administration side, and then the opposite end on the police department side. These chargers are capable of charging a typical car within a half hour. Okay, so my thought process on this was that when we have patrons come here and we're promoting this, that if you're gonna come here for a 15, 20-minute visit, you wanna more or less fill up. It's not worth the small level 1s or the level 2s, because you're not really good on a level 1, you'll never get a charge of any significance, whereas on a level 2, yeah, you might get an eighth of a tank, let's say, in comparison to a level 3, which could get you a full tank for that duration here. The other one was to be presented at Public Works, right off, and the idea there was to be able to create a roadmap for people or motorists on I-55 to basically charge up, fill up. Now, what this boils down to is that the actual equipment, I believe, is about $325 for the chargers. In conjunction with that is, I don't know what the transformers or ComEd's infrastructure, if anything, is going to cost. That's something that's unknown. I've been trying to work with ComEd to determine if they're going to increase the grids to supply the power for these. So, and I don't have that answer yet. March 1st is tentatively the new incentive / rebates that are coming out for programs that people want to, are thinking of installing them, but don't want to install it because they don't want to bear the cost yet. So I don't know what that program entails yet, or all the particulars.
So going back in January, they had the Tesla thing that made national news where they couldn't charge any of their cars because it's the middle of winter.
Agreed.
Yep.
Second thing is we have ComEd that we don't know what the costs are going to be on this. Okay. And third of all, these level 3 chargers are great, but what happens if technology changes in 3 or 4 years and these are obsolete?
Well, the thing is, number one, they're coming in with these, they came out with a standardized plug, first of all. What the longevity of these are supposed to be, I'm sure there's a manufacturer's specification. Obviously, they haven't been in operation enough to be able to go and see, okay, do they last 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case is. Third option on this is, it's a turnkey operation of where a particular vendor comes in, owns, maintains, and the city can get part of a residual on whether or not we're gonna charge patrons that come into the city hall / police department, public works, same thought process there. So is it a revenue maker? Yes. To what degree? Again, everything has to be put together, and I need those costs, but I can't determine what the final costs are until I get these rebates, or a better cost, I should
Wouldn't
say.
it technically be considered a revenue recovery because you would
Sure.
have put out a big investment? I guess my question is, I make my way around town a lot. I do have a hybrid vehicle, so I can charge supposedly 24, but I drive a mile and I lose 7 miles. But I, do frequently, when I run into a store, whether it's in Willowbrook or over in Woodridge by Kohl's, some places charge, some places don't. But a lot of our neighboring communities, businesses, and I'm truly shocked that Walmart has not put in any chargers because most Walmarts have them. Myers has a ton of them over in Bolingbrook. Have we looked into or vetted any of our bigger stores, whether it's Jewel or Walmart or Home Depot, them as the business putting them in
Yes.
and being a value add to our community?
Yes, as a matter of fact, one, Brookhaven, I looked at that opportunity as right along Plainfield Road, where he's got that strip of parking over there that's almost no man's land, if you want to say. That was a great opportunity. He had applied for a grant probably a year and a half ago now. No response, number one. Number two, costly to do it on his own. Should he rent it, then it becomes a whole nother circumstances and all that. Well, we've adopted all the codes and policies. That's all said and done. But I think with this next set of grants that I've been told about, there's a great opportunity for those types of, opportunities. But the problem is all timing. It's a first come, first serve, number one. In consideration, there's also another component factor on economics. So I don't know what the weights are on those. I can't even tell you because we applied and we're going to get that monies. They just came out with one grant last month, I should say a couple of weeks ago. We're not eligible for it.
So there's no companies out there that, you pull into the store and you have to have an app or a code or, to charge. There's no company out there that, I think back to when Chicago Billboard came and pitched us to put up a electronic billboard in our town at no cost to us. There's nobody out there that'll install a charging station where they reap all the financial rewards from people charging at no cost to the place that it's being installed.
At zero cost, I have not seen that yet, no.
I think they know they can't make money on it.
Because it's
Thank
not
you.
economic.
I mean, Sam's, you go to Sam's and, Sam's has his own gas station out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're making money.
Right.
Because they know they can't make money at it.
That's-
Yeah,
Well, the
zero interest.
what do you call it? Kohl's over in Woodridge. They put them in.
Right.
Yes, I charge over there.
You go to Bella Costa over in the Promenade.
Right.
And there's a couple over there.
Yep.
Oakbrook has them.
We would love to see John Manos get them. We'd love to see the Jewel get them. We kind of have to be the standard here. I mean, we've worked a whole year on the EV readiness program, so that we're ready to work with our businesses to get them. I mean, we would like to see that happen. With regard to what Ted said, if you do really research what happened back in January, a lot of those people who couldn't get their cars started were people who weren't charging their cars at home.
Well, that's the other thing too. A lot of it's education. They were letting the cars, run down below a safe level, if you want to say. My thought process on this was, if we're gonna, be advocates of this, then we should portray that, and that's why I looked at the city hall entrances and the public works.
Well, I just think of, people come in and out of City Hall pretty quickly.
Right.
Like, it would make sense to put it, if you did it at all. I don't think you need to start with 3, because that, and I no offense, Dan, but the only people going to municipal services are the people that work there. I mean, the library, a spot where people are going to be inside for a few minutes, a grocery store. And in that case, that's when I feel like we need to partner with the business.
Yeah.
And have them, like, that's why I'm naming corporate stores. I mean,
Yep.
John Manos is a great businessman, but he's not the Jewels and the Walmarts and the Home
Yeah.
Depots of the world.
Right. Yeah, Walmart's a whole other.
Step up.
He's not
That
putting it
was one
there
of my
because
questions I want to ask
He's not going to
Walmart.
be able to make money at it or
But he
not
wanted,
lose any money.
he wanted to put it there. It's just the economics of it. It was too expensive, and there was, all these rebates never came through for them, or grants, when they had the original grants
That's
back
the
a year
problem.
ago.
So you get
The thing is, if our goal is to go to a municipal fleet, which is EV, and I think that is our goal, then we need a charging station, either here or at Public Works.
But we have no electric
I don't
vehicles
want
right now.
Well, we have it
we
earmarked
ordered
still, and again, we had the one earmarked.
Earmarked one.
One.
Right.
Okay.
And we never purchased it, for the
Car.
simple reason.
We don't have a charging
Until we get the chargers, and that the whole program is worth it, and there's some rebates in it, I won't buy that vehicle. I mean, there's no
Yep.
reason for
Well,
it.
why couldn't you charge that one vehicle like people
Home.
charge their own vehicles at home?
I
Like
could,
with the-
I definitely could.
Like you could install the plug in the municipal
Yep.
services.
Right, but it was just, it'd be nice to see a package that was all put together and see what a level 3 charger takes.
Yeah, I just look at the taxpayers.
Thank you.
And many of them who, I've got lots of people in my neighborhood that have Teslas, and like I said, I have a hybrid. I like to charge, especially when I can charge for free anywhere I can, because my electric bill's gone up. I just think, for us to say, we're going to allocate this amount of money out of your taxpayer dollars, when you aren't going to reap any of it. In your household, you might have no intention, many people have no intention of buying an electric vehicle.
I don't.
And we're not
But even the ones that-
subsidizing people's gas
Can't.
that they have to go to the Speedway or to the Shell for. So I guess I'm
Isn't it
just
true,
trying to.
but even the electric cars that are out there, I mean, there's no resale market. I mean, there's used ones laying around all over the place. People aren't even buying used ones.
Actually, Jerry, you're wrong. There was an article in the Tribune today that talked about the growing percentage of people that are purchasing EV vehicles. It was
No, new ones, not used ones.
The new ones, the manufacturers are cutting back on manufacturing.
Now we did a big survey with the whole city. Did that come up? Was this something people wanted? I mean, we had a
Well,
whole survey.
yes.
Was it asked by anybody saying we need these things?
Being part of the cohort was the whole objective of this, which we were part of a year. If I may suggest, whether we want to have 1 or 3, can I ask that we
None.
at least postpone this until we get, till
Grant
ComEd
money.
comes with the program March 1st, and to see what the rebates will be? Because I
Should get
can't,
grant money.
again, I put in a figure that it's all in at this point on our own
Yeah.
with no rebates at all.
Well, that March 1st, Jan and I were talking today, through the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, we get, Edith informs us of all these new grants that are coming out. I guess March 1st, there is a new one coming out where we may be able to get money or rebates on it.
Correct.
I would say maybe not 3, but maybe take a look at least 1 here at City Hall as a placeholder in your budget. Let's see where we are in March with regard to the grant.
And we could always make it contingent upon receiving of the grant. Just because we apply for it, we'll know what our opportunity is.
Apply for it.
Whether or not we get it. You know,
The
it applies for EVs too, so.
We applied for a grant. Unfortunately, a lot of these grants are, if you've already put it in, we'll rebate you the money. We haven't done that. So that's why we
Forget
don't
that.
qualify, because we're not, quote, shovel-ready. We're
So
not.
there's grants out there right now that if you as a municipality budget for an EV charger, you can apply to possibly be refunded?
Not
Yeah.
yet.
You're saying that, and yet you're saying there is.
No,
I'm
if you
confused.
have,
If you
have a charger in place.
Right.
Then
and
you
was
can
installed in the
get
last
money.
year, or an EV
So
vehicle.
they're retroactive grants.
Correct.
They should be called a grant then.
Right, you're
I'm sorry,
exact.
that's, you
That's-
should not call it a grant. if
That's
it's-
the problem,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's the way it didn't come across through PR releases
Wrong.
from ComEd.
Okay, so, and you have no idea what the ComEd dollar is?
Not yet, no.
We won't know till March 1st, till the,
And even if you put it in, though, what's the thought process? Are we going to charge people?
Yes.
Are we not going
That's
to
a whole
charge
nother-
$100 an hour.
You said which taxpayers are going to pay that electric bill if we're not charging them? I mean, I just don't think.
Well, the
whole
subject
thing's been
also
thought
becomes,
out.
the subject also becomes whether or not we as part of a franchise, if this is included in the franchise, and whether or not we get charged for the electric. Now, again, what does that mean, not get charged for the electric? I think the community still gets charged. It's just more so de minimis. The community meaning all the residents.
But we're probably going to also have to upgrade the infrastructure here for ComEd to put those in here, correct?
Don't know yet, but yes, that's why I put in the $100,000 for those transformers potentially. And until I know that policy with ComEd is not set yet, whether or not they have a program or they're basically making that part of the infrastructure available at no cost. It's a cost to them. I don't have that information yet, but that would all be vetted prior to me coming back, whether it's March 1st or July, for example.
Let's suppose we were to put these 1 or 3 in, and we're making money off of these things. And then our business community decides, John Manos wants to put them in. We're gonna compete with our businesses. I
don't think
don't think it's right at all.
The goal is that if you look there on our website, as a matter of fact, we have, under EV, there's a lot of information about our area, our zip code, 60561, tells us how many EVs have been purchased. There's projections on what they say will be in 2030, whatever the case is. Is it factual? Let's face it. Ted's point, middle of winter. It's.
Yeah, I don't understand how it's competing. Like, I think business people that will go shop at Brookhaven will go there. I'm not understanding the
I'm thinking
competition.
if John Manos wanted to go ahead and and put in charging stations to make money off of, and then we've got charging stations that are we competing with John Manos?
I don't think this is number one, no. The answer is no, because it's
It's like gas
convenience.
stations competing against each other. I
This
don't, I mean.
is convenience.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
That's all.
Right, convenience factor, and I don't think anyone is gonna make money on this.
No.
They'd be doing it.
I'm just curious how, do you, when you put it in, and, I mean, I think if we were to do 1 or 20 eventually, I think we have to charge for it. I mean, I don't see how we could do it without, because there's a recovery cost, and it's like, I guess it's incentivizing people to get electric cars by us not charging, but I guess you'd have to have a service. Like, there's people that, in the station, it's like there's different brands all out there, like, and then there's Teslas that have completely different charging mechanisms.
Well, that's supposed to all been standardized now.
Yeah, they're going
I
to.
can't go
in
over
another year or
to
two.
Myers and plug my Lincoln
Right.
into a Tesla charger. That hasn't been, those haven't changed.
yeah,
I'm just saying
right.
they're Tesla branded, and I'm sure Tesla put those in. But like, you have to scan a QR. So like, does the company, I guess I still have a lot of questions. Like, does the company like then, like lease or rent
we're not set
the
up for this.
charger from whoever put it in, and then they get the money or they share the money? I mean, I just, there's
Yeah, really.
so many questions.
There's only two opportunities. Either you buy and you own and you collect, or you have a turnkey operation that somebody owns and operates, and you just sit back, and then you get a
But you said those-
residual.
You said those people aren't out there.
It's a residual that you get, but it's got to be based on a market that they think is
I mean, if we
sufficient.
had our own fleet and we had our own EVs, I could start to understand this. But at the same time, most people I know that do have an EV, they've upgraded their service in their house.
Right.
They're doing it at home. They don't want to take
How
a
many
chance. They're charging it
people are putting
overnight.
in the level 3s? Are any of those at
No,
like
no,
Meyer?
level 3s are for commercial application like
Yeah,
ours.
Okay.
Everything else is level 2s. Starting, actually, this past January, the new codes now are for multifamily, residential, new construction. This is all for new construction, that they're mandated to have a minimal of a 220 dedicated circuit. So again, that's part of the codes that recently.
That's what I
went
have
into
at my
effect.
house, a dedicated
Like-
220 circuit.
Right, you put it in.
A 220 charge, Ralph, would take about 12 hours.
hours.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
it
when you
charges
go
overnight.
to Kohl's or to Meyer, you don't get a level 3 that charges up in 20 minutes, right?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Level 3,
It's better, that's faster than my house, but it's
You're still doing
definitely,
it overnight.
a level 3 will charge
I
up
might
to
get a few
20
miles
minutes.
while I'm in the store.
This discussion sounds like it's about a year too early.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not adverse to the idea, but I just think our locations are wrong, the wrong places.
I think we need more information. We need to re-explore the locations.
Yeah.
I personally would love to see us do like an intensive reach out to our businesses, aside from
That's
John
where they
Manos.
belong. They
To say,
belong at
like,
the
I mean, because I'm not kidding you, like, I go to a lot of different stores and, I can't, most Walmarts have them. So why does our Walmart not have
Right.
them?
That's a question
You
I
know,
have for
like, so
Walmart.
why do certain, like, nationwide stores have them in other locations, but not in our location?
I would have to think they're coming, that I really
Maybe
would.
they are. They could be putting them in next month, and we'd be
Right.
like, oh gosh, so maybe those conversations need to happen too.
I mean, it's
question
just,
for them.
Me from the school, are we chasing good money after bad? And if we have a situation where we don't even know what ComEd is going to cost to upgrade
Yeah,
this,
that's, that.
you know what I mean?
I agree.
It's nerve wracking just, thinking about that, because we don't know what's going to happen.
It's a large number, yes, and again, at least, when we're talking about it, if we want to reduce it down to one, give us the opportunity until March 1st to see what it's really going to cost us, because all these grants that have been out there have not been applicable to us.
So I think we need a consensus. I think what's on the table right now, I sense, is to reduce to one and give Dan an opportunity to explore through at least
Grants.
March 1st, grants and other offerings, and maybe get a little bit more detail on the true cost from ComEd.
Sure.
Is there a
yes.
consensus
Yeah.
for everybody here?
Yeah.
I would say you get the consensus from ComEd first before we make any.
No, I'm just
Right.
saying, I don't want to send the
The
man
whole
on a wild
package.
goose
Right.
chase. So do we still want him to explore what the costs are for ComEd? Are we in a,
He's just exploring. We're not.
I don't think it's
we're
a
not-
wild goose chase, because
ComEd is the one offering the grants
Right
now.
next year.
we're
Okay.
not,
So
we're
it's not like-
Okay.
I'm not
it won't be
saying
valuable
we're agreeing on
information.
anything. I'm just saying we're talking about maybe reducing it to one.
Yeah.
There's still more conversations to
Right.
have, but do we still want Dan to
I'm good
further
with that.
explore?
Yeah.
Dan, is the
Yeah, I mean,
quote we
Yeah,
got
but I'm-
contingent on buying 3, or does the price
Oh.
per unit go up?
It's per unit. This is part of the suburban purchasing co-op
Okay.
program, so this is. the
So it's
best-
1/3 then?
Correct.
And the level 2 is what most stores have now. Oh, like if you went to.
In a mall area,
In a mall
I would,
area.
yes, yes.
And what would that cost?
I do have those costs. I did not include.
And I know that's not
Yeah, but
what
why
you're looking for, but it's also something that
I
would
agree.
put it out
be
there.
equivalent
if,
to?
if it's less cost and it gets people to think about it, and it's in our parking lot here, that might be something we can look at.
That's fine.
Because
But they're not gonna be here
No,
long
but to Mary's
enough.
point, though, it's got to be a place where at least you're
You're
going to
gonna
be there a
long
half an
enough.
hour.
Right.
People don't come here and sit here for a half an hour to
Right.
charge.
No,
I
they're
mean,
here
I
for
think even the
15
location here doesn't make sense.
They're
It
here
could
for-
maybe,
Right, they're here for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
park.
not gonna.
Part of this is
conducive.
to create the program and to show, you know,
Home
basically,
Depot that
it's a
long.
show to tell people, hey, we're part of this, we're in it for the future. So, again, it's basically a public relations
What's that
factor
to
in
be
here
at
as
a
well.
mall?
I realize it's a lot of money, but the EV readiness program is exactly as Dan said. It's that they want the communities like Darien to be role models for the installation of charging stations and encourage EV purchases and EV driving. And that's what we came through our year of work on the EV readiness program.
Then they
And I
should
know it's a
give us-
lot,
then they should
I know
give
it's a
us
lot of
money to
money
do
to
it.
say we're going to be role models for the community, but that's really what we are. We're going to be role models for the
There's money
community.
to do it.
How often is our police training room used for like homeowners association meetings and that kind of thing? Those are instances where people are there for a while.
Oh, for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
I think of like on a daily basis, like you got to give some people something to do while their car's charging. Whether it's get groceries, go into the library,
Go mall.
read.
Just make the effort to plug in.
Yeah, versus,
Right.
they're not supposed to sit in their car and have it run. Well, just like you're not supposed to run your car at the gas station.
No, but
while
we
you're
just talk about not people walking in here for like 10 minutes.
Right.
But like I
Oh,
said,
this is
but,
too quick.
But right, but I said if we're across.
Full quite a bit. There's no space.
Absolutely.
Several
Very
of us
often I try to
could
park
have charged our cars
too.
tonight.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you want to sit back and show the community that we have it, in instances where a homeowners association is there or police or training or whatever the case may be, at least it could be used.
Yeah, I just don't think they're there enough,
Right, it's gonna make the other 10 people that can't plug in.
I think you need to
mad.
focus on whether you're
Yeah.
going to charge.
These are single stations with two
$12 an
ports
hour.
on them, so every machine will have two
If you have
ports.
to pay every place else, you should have to pay here, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have Dan get some more information for us and come back
Yeah. All right, let's
regarding
move on.
EV chargers. Okay?
Yep.
Anything else on that?
Nope.
Okay, Southeast Plainfield Road, the retaining wall, the, joint with the county.
Hey, there's actually a joint with the county?
can we put
Or-
Christmas
Should we
lights
say
on it?
agreement?
We can do whatever we want on
Yeah,
that
can we
wall.
put Christmas lights on it?
Put a picture of you on there.
I like that.
to Jerry about that,
I know we've had lots of discussions about this in the past, but is there any more discussions that need to take place tonight?
but I thought the one we talked about was like the cheaper one of this. Wasn't it like a lot less than?
That was that we approved the cost of the engineering and all of that.
But I thought there were
There
two,
was two concepts. The concept that we introduced, I just bumped it up a little
Look at
bit.
page 215.
no, I know that.
The
I'm at it.
revenue
I'm there.
side, Jerry has 250,000, and the revenue, it's grants, so our net cost is about half what Dan is
Oh, that's
saying.
what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it shows up
Okay,
as a grant
thank you.
in the
I'm
revenue.
nuts.
Yeah,
Back in
no,
your,
no, I'm
back in
sorry.
the accounting world, I guess you accountants wanna,
Debits and credits.
I want net, yeah.
It's not two-page
But
counting,
we,
it's will
just to
counting.
confirm though, what Jerry's saying is, we are going with the concept one.
correct,
Yes,
correct. And right
right.
now, just as a 30-second commercial, the engineering is in the process of being completed. So we should have some.
No, concept two, not concept one.
I'm sorry. the-
Yeah.
It was two.
Right, whatever it is, it's the
Yeah. Okay, here
lower
it
of the
is.
two.
Yeah, right.
And where it's at right now, engineering is still being worked on, which includes design. We had some great news on the space that we have available there. There's easement, so again, it's gonna be less of a cost than we are on the engineering portion so far. So I'm hoping to have a couple design concepts within a month, month and a half, and we'll go from there.
Excellent.
Yep.
Any more questions on the retaining wall at the southeast corner of Plainfield and Cass?
Get their money up
Okay.
front.
Okay. Moving on to street reconstruction rehab. So the road program, there's information on that, and obviously there's money through MFT.
How many miles are we doing?
5.2,
Go.
and basically same as almost the same as last year, and the net difference is about $130 from last year as far as a cost differential. And let's see, Mary, what page are you on? I'm sorry.
I'm on page 188.
188.
Yeah, and then the backup is,
All right, so they have 425. We're gonna go and apply the 425 and the 75 all to MFT.
223.
So the entire funds will all be taken out of MFT, and the total will be 1.897, let's call it 1.9 million out of MFT.
and the subsequent pages is 223 for the
223, yeah.
details.
Yeah, we just got the bids, we just opened up the bids yesterday, so that number's increased from what I had of 1.890 on my estimates to 1.897, so 10, I'll call it 10,000 more.
Okay.
Any questions on street reconstruction, rehab? Okay. And lastly, under this budget is consulting professional. Any questions there? Okay. Anything else to add, Dan, overall?
No, not on this.
Okay. With it being 20 to 10, is everyone okay that we wrap it for the evening?
I just need 1 minute.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, yeah,
Oh,
I'm just
I'm
saying,
sorry,
any
okay.
more budget stuff, and then I'll give everybody a chance to,
Yeah.
okay? Brian?
And not to debate Eric, but this happened a few years ago when we mentioned the county at a public meeting, and somebody actually heard about it and called me and wondered what was wrong.
Good
And again, not to debate Eric, but we have done a lot of good things with the county. We put in water systems. We've done a water main replacement when they've replaced the roads. And I think there's a time, and Joe, you would know better than me, when the relationship between the county and the city was a bit rocky.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would say we have a really, really good relationship with the county. Not everything's perfect.
No,
and-
could be
and-
better.
But it's better, and we have done a lot of really good things with them. Again, just in case anybody hears or watches, I didn't want to leave the taste in the county's mouth that we're bad-mouthing them or anything, that's all.
No, we're not. Eric is.
We have, yeah, we
They can
will,
call me
And then we
anytime they
clarify
want.
that.
I'd be happy to meet with them anytime they want to meet.
well, I've met with Deb Conroy, I've met with Carrie Galassi, I've met with Lucy. They're really good our District 3 people are really good people. They're very responsive to us. Back in the early 2000s, we had a terrible relationship with the county, to the point where they really kept us from developing the Triangle area. Not the Triangle, the, off
Frontage
of
Road.
North Frontage Road. So I think we've come a long way with
I
that.
don't think so.
So what are we saving for next
Okay,
week?
so thank you, everybody. Treasurer Corrin, do you have anything else to add? So next Tuesday, you guys are going to start out with a recap of general revenue and expenses. Then you're going to get into the police budget. And you also need to talk about city council, administrative, community development, the enterprise fund, MFT, and special service areas. So,
The municipal
Community
services.
development's done. Community,
Pardon? Oh, that's-
budget,
yeah.
community
I'm sorry, I already
Yeah,
said,
we did that, yeah.
I'm sorry, I said community development, I didn't. So city council, administrative, police, MFT,
Everything.
water, special services.
Water depreciation
covered
and
that.
water fund.
Yeah, both water funds,
Yes.
okay? I will not be here, Joe Kenny will not be here, Dan will have follow-up on the items we talked about, I will send an email about that.
County will be here.
And you might need some more time on some of the other things.
Yes.
And we still have, and if there's anything else that comes up, but any other questions or comments? I'll leave the snacks with Brian under lock and key, so you guys have something to snack on.
They'll be
Thank you,
gone by
everybody,
next
for your
week.
time tonight.
Take my, take.
Thanks, Ted, for next week ahead of time.
No problem. Nice job, Mayor.
They're good.